Well, good afternoon, Corporations Committee. Let me make sure people online can hear us. If you can hear me, give me a thumbs up. Thanks. There are 4 of us here in Cheyenne. And as I'm looking, let's do roll call. Waiting for one other person who's joining the room. But I think Ms. Talbot, if you do the roll call, that'd be great.
Senator Boner,
Here.
Senator Case, Senator Nethercott, Senator Scott, Representative Blackburn, Representative Clausen,
Here.
Representative Duncan,
Here.
Representative Ayer,
Here.
Representative Greer, Representative McGuire,
Present.
Representative Roscoe,
Here.
Representative Yin,
Here.
Co-Chairman Driscoll,
Here.
Chairman Swalitzer.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
With that, so first off, committee thanks. I know we had some conversations over the weekend with many of you on if this would be an all-day meeting or a Zoom-only meeting. And so working with LSO, we obviously made it a hybrid meeting, bringing us all here today. Representative, oh, there's Senator Nethercott, welcome. And so I know there's still a lot of positioning and some conversations going on throughout the state on some of the plans that we
Can't
asked
hear
for.
anything. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Representative Duncan. And so because of that, and hearing that some of these plans were not completely finalized or agreed upon by a large amount of the people they purported to represent, we'll see how far we get today. But I do think it was important when we really talked to have all of us in person, and knowing that more than half of us couldn't be in person today. You know, obviously as a legislative body, being together in the room and really talking things out, I think goes a lot further. So I hope we make some progress today, but as I said to many of you over email, we'll likely have at least 1, if not 2 more meetings. And at the end of this meeting, we'll certainly decide how we can get all of our schedules to match, whether that needs to be in Cheyenne or another place, if that makes it easier on some of our members to really talk in person and hammer out these kind of final details before we then give it to the county clerks to fine tune some of those lines. So with that, opening comments from anyone. Senator Case, you're gonna say anything? You're gonna make a quip? Okay. Anyone in the committee, any opening comments? I'm gonna turn it over to LSO to just update us on what they've received for the past 10 days since our last meeting, and then we'll jump right in.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Michael Swank, Legislative Service Office. We have processed about a dozen new plans. They are all posted to the current LSO website for the proposed plan link. It's under submittals for December 14th meeting. Under that link on the website, we have the base statewide plan adopted at the last meeting. And then under that, we have plan submissions for each region. There were 2 for Region 1. Region 2 did not submit a new plan. Region 3 has another submission from Representative Gray. Region 4 did submit an updated plan to deal with a contiguity issue for House District 55. Region 6 submitted a plan from the Campbell County Clerk that only addressed Campbell County, did not address Weston or Crook County. Weston County submitted a plan that districts both Region 6, Campbell, Crook, and Weston, as well as Region 7, which is Converse, Goshen, Platte, and Niobrara counties. And then Region 7 submitted 2 plans in a similar fashion that redistrict both Regions 6 and 7. There's 2 different options. And then the last region that submitted a plan, there were 3 alternative scenarios for the Bighorn Basin, Region 8, to get all districts within deviation. They're basically 3 options. All of them, if I briefly describe them, all of them have the remainder of Yellowstone National Park attached to House District 24. And then there are alternatives to take the remaining population out of either Natrona County, Fremont County, or Sheridan County, and then reconfigure inside the Bighorn Basin to get all districts above the deviation, -5 deviation. So those are the regional plans. And we did have one plan submitted by a committee member for the statewide, an alternative statewide plan, Senator Scott. And if he is with us, I believe he would like to address that sometime during this meeting.
Okay. Any opening comments from the committee? I think it's, I guess, my prerogative that we move to Fremont County first, as that seemed to be the easiest issue to tackle and hopefully starts us off on the right foot. I did invite Ms. Freese into the room. Welcome, Julie. I hope you're the designated person to walk us through the revision from Region 4 that the committee asked for in regards to Fremont County and that airport island. If you'd be okay to comment on that, we have it pulled up on the screen.
Certainly, unless I could defer to Senator Case if he wishes, but he wasn't at that meeting, but I'd be happy to go through it.
He says, take it away. It's all you.
Okay. So as determined by the committee, we were asked to take those perceived islands out. So working with Representative Ottman and Senator Salazar, we took that and put that into, well, the airport area, we put into 34. And actually that's where it had been before. So what we did is we reverted this back to how it had been before. So the Job Corps Center, which is harder to see now, is back in mostly 33. So then to balance that, we had to go over to 3-2, which is on the east, southeast side of Riverton. This is a three-way split. It is not optimal, but it is split between 55, 34, and 33. So the only changes we made is to take away from 34 and put into 55. And we tried to do that in a manner, you can see the line there. We tried to, well, actually the line we used was more of a kind of a backwards upside down L, because we wanted to follow at least streets so that we could tell voters that if you're on this side of the street or on this street, then you're in certain districts. So that's how we did it.
Any questions from the committee for the Fremont County Clerk? Senator Case, anything to add?
Just, I want to thank our Clerk Freese. She's been a great leader in all this, and I think we were all able to work together pretty well. I'm proud of it. So thank you, Julia. Good job.
Thank you to our legislators who just worked on it right with us. So thank you very much.
Committee, any further questions? I got Representative Roscoe.
I'd like to make a motion to accept this as part of our plan.
Okay, is there a second? Seconded by Blackburn. Committee, any questions or discussion on implementing this as part of the, I guess we'd call it Plan 1, moving forward to integrate this into the plan? Looking, raise your yellow hand because I can only see 4 of you if you do have any thoughts or comments you'd like to offer. I'll give it just a second.
Question.
All right, not seeing any. All those in favor, just raise your hand of incorporating this into the plan. Okay, that looks like a majority of those present, certainly. Anything else, Ms. Freese, while we have Fremont County pulled up? Ongoing issues? Do you know, with this plan, did it change the Native American population of House District 33 by any
So
great degree?
Yeah, it did change it a little bit to include that, to put the Job Corps back in, which was like 160, I want to say 164 votes, or excuse me, votes, census into there. So it did up their numbers. There was not a large amount of Native Americans in that number, but I don't think it changed overall what it does to that district. I think we're still in good numbers there.
All right, any other comments on Fremont County before we move on today? I figured we'd get the easy one out of the way. All right, seeing none. Anybody on the committee feel led to move to a different region they want to talk about next? Not seeing any. Maybe we can just move up north to the basin. I know Representative Greer had significant meeting today that he was not able to attend. But as you'll see from the map committee and members of the public who are watching, the Bighorn Basin region did submit 3 plans that the committee did ask for regarding their region. And as you'll remember, committee, we did ask for possible scenarios to make the Bighorn Basin 4-county region be able to fit 6 seats at deviation or below. So again, deviation is -5. And if you look online at those 3 submissions, and those of us here in the room down in Cheyenne, they're provided in that handout. Mr. Swank has submission 2 pulled up. Is that correct? You want me to walk through this, Mr. Swank, or did you get any more information? Actually, I bet the Park County clerk is available if I look in the room here. And his hand is raised. We'll bring him in. We'll give him just a second to join in. All right, Mr. Odie, can you hear us?
I can, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity today. Trying to get my video going for you. There we go. So thank you again, Mr. Chairman. Would you like me to go ahead and walk through this section 2?
Sure, if you would, maybe we'll walk through all 3. And I reminded the committee and the audience that, to try to see if there was a way to get within deviation, what would that look like going through the geographical limits of the Bighorn Basin, and where might that population come? And so I do believe you submitted 3, we'll call them possible scenarios, even if they might be unpalatable. But if we could just review each one of the 3 on what those numbers look like. And yeah, the one on the screen, submission 2, would be great to start with.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, thank you for the introduction, and it's spot on. This is the first submission, submission 2, takes in down here in the southeast part. It connects up with 27 and takes in about 3/4 of Natrona County. If you look at it, goes all the way to the basically the municipal boundary of Mills, down in the very bottom part there of that blue area. And then what we did is just balanced throughout the basin. There's population shifts throughout 27, 28, 26. And we may have gotten into 25 there. I can't quite remember if I did or not, but and a little bit out of where 28 had to go and grab a few more, or I believe give some to 24. And then also in all 3 of our submissions, we did take the 79 people out of the southwest part of the park. So those 79 are incorporated. The only thing that really does for us election-wise is now it'll create another ballot style for Teton County. They will have to report House District 24 to Park County, and we already report the Teton County Conservation District, which takes in up to Mammoth. So we already report to them their results for their conservation district, and now they'll just have to reciprocate and report 24 results to us. So that's basically the gist of submission 2 that takes in Natrona County. If we want to go to submission 3. So, Mr. Chairman, this one takes in the north part of Sheridan County all the way over to Ranchester. It leaves out the Dayton area, but it does take in the community of Ranchester and Parkman. You have to go a long way to the east there to gather any significant population. What what that does is that did make us reconfigure 2025 quite a bit. We shifted some population in 50, 24. It pretty much made us shift population in all 6 of the districts by taking in that area. I don't have the numbers right handy with me as to where we got, but everything is at 5 or under for the populations. There we go. Thank you, Mr. Swank. So 362, actually 144 in 25 down to 495 in 27. So that's going over the mountain and taking in the north part of Sheridan County. And then the last submission 4, also takes in the park, and then the valley plan is what we called it originally, that we didn't submit the first time. And that takes in the Missouri Valley area of Fremont County to the west side of Boyson. And it is a farm community and kind of blends in with the basin. Probably the most palatable for the basin is this plan. Again, but it does create, I believe, some problems for Fremont County and their region. So again, that one I just balanced throughout the basin after I took in that part, and we got all of our deviations under the -5. 404 to -5, -404.
So Mr. Odie, would it be fair, I guess, or the directive, at least for me, would be if we were to adopt one of these scenarios, that you would continue to have a public meeting or two and consult with the other county clerks and the other legislators. And maybe you could discuss a little bit of all the 9 legislators in this region and the 4 county clerks are aware of these 3 submissions, and what it might look like if we were to go with one of these scenarios, that there would still be ample opportunity to, not totally redraw those districts, but reassess what those districts might look like at a 5% deviation. And it might not look as haphazard as this map shows. Would that be a fair ask if we were to choose one of these submissions, that we're asking, really where the extra population is coming from, but that the Bighorn Basin County community would review lines and districts to meet that?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. And that is a great question, because yes, we would definitely want to go back and revisit some of these lines and straighten out some things. When I put this together on Thursday and Friday of last week, I really, Representative Greer and I had a few brief conversations, and he kind of gave me my marching orders, and that's what I did. Is I put together a couple of plans, and the 9 legislators have been emailed all 3 of these plans. The 4 county clerks in the region, as well as Fremont County and Natrona County and Sheridan County's county clerks have all been notified, and I've sent them snapshots of each one of these submissions so that they are aware of those. I didn't really get any feedback from anybody other than, thank you for your time, basically. So, but there would need to be some further consultation for sure to get some of these lines squared away. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And then Mr. Swank, could we put up the existing Bighorn Basin area up on the screen too? And so committee, just trying to find a roadmap here. I think the question in my mind before us is, do we stay with the current plan that has a, what, negative 6.3 deviation is the max of those 6 districts. That sound right, Mr. Swank? Oh,
6.
okay. So the question is, do we like one of those 3 plans submitted better? And when I say one of those plans, I really mean the concept of where to potentially draw the basin 6 area seats into, or are we more comfortable with the deviation exception of, if you could go down on the left side just a little bit, Mr. Swank.
6.26.
The highest is 6.26 below deviation.
Right.
So with that, we're going to open up some comments. Let's call on Representative Yin. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Clerk Odie, I don't know if you mentioned this or maybe I just missed it very briefly. How much do the 2 options take from Ranchester in that one option and the Valley and the other?
Mr. Odie, if you know, or we can pull it back up and Mr. Swank might be able to jump in and look at the numbers.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like Mr. Swank to jump in if he could. I believe that the Valley plan took in around 750-ish. And I believe that the Sheridan County plan took in more in the neighborhood of 800, I believe. Thank you, Representative Yin.
And we're looking up that number for you right now, Representative Yin, if you give us just a second.
Okay, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Scott, go ahead.
Yeah, and I came in the middle of this because I had trouble getting through. We had when we developed my plan, there was a version that included a couple of precincts from Natrona County. Was that one of the first ones you talked about, or is that outside of this?
That, I believe, was the first submission was a drawing into Natrona County. It was about, I don't know, 48% of the land mass, and maybe we could pull that number of Natrona County residents as well.
About 150 people.
I think it might have been in the 400 or 500 range, but it certainly was expansive.
Okay, that's a different one.
Yeah. Oh, not your original. This was from the 3 that were submitted from the basin area. They're on the website again as the 3 submissions. But yeah, the first submission we discussed, it's almost 50% of the geographic area of Natrona County, right up to the Mills city limits.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's not what I'm thinking of. Mr. Swank can give you the details, but he had one worked out for me that was the area from the park, some of the valley area, and because he got about 150 or 60 out of 2 precincts in northeast or northwest Natrona County.
Mr. Swing, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, that's correct. It's the statewide plan that was submitted to the committee that we have not actually reviewed yet.
Senator Case, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I wonder if I might be able to yield to our chief clerk, our clerk in Fremont County, Julie Freese, maybe to talk to you a little bit about what happens when you take that many people out of the valley and you have to spread it out over other districts. It does end up impacting House District 33, which is the Native American district that we've created, of course. But I don't know, is Ms. Freese available?
Yes.
Still here?
Yep. Julie, go ahead if you have thoughts to share on the Missouri Valley Plan.
Good afternoon. So looking at the numbers that we presented in our previous plan that we just sent to you for this time. So remembering at the top of our map, 34 runs into, well, it runs into almost all of our districts, of course. 54, which is Lander, I'm gonna talk about them first. They're almost at max of 99.18 anyway. It's pretty hard to kind of mush down into their what you need to remember with Fremont County is that anything you do to the top of portion, which is all 34, is going to push into predominantly 33 or 55. So looking at 55 at 9735, if we added 349 to them, that's the max they could go to make the deviation. Just keep that in your head. 33 could take more, but this is what you need to remember is in that all that farming community up there, the Native American numbers are not that high. So I've been telling you that what we're trying to achieve is how much the Native American numbers are within 33. So if you dilute it with non-Native American numbers, their numbers are going to decrease. I mean, and that's something the committee is going to have to decide. I mean, obviously, we have said that our constituents in Valley are not at all interested, which I'm sure Shoshone and Lyside at some point were not either. But another thing I want to tell you about Valley is you can't split that. I tried. I went and looked. There is no good way besides, I mean, because we don't have streets out there. And a majority of that is on the south end. There's nothing in the north end, but maybe a couple houses or whatever. But you're going to be taken clear down into the Missouri Valley Road is where you're going to be. I can't split that. Margie and I worked on that. At least at a clerk's view at this. I mean, I want to be able to tell those folks out there, if this happens to them, okay, you go to this dirt pile, and then from here on out, you're in and you're out. I'm not, we can't do that. So basically, it comes down. You have to come down from the Boyson area, obviously, and slip across. You want to probably go 26, but again, it goes over to 8 Mile Road, as I recall. And like I said, a majority of the population is below that. And again, anything you do there, I'm going to have to push into 55, which can't take much more. And then the rest of it's going to end up in 33. And I looked at it way early on when this was proposed. We don't want to be the Fremont County stick in the mud here, but most of that area is going to be non-native. I mean, and so it depends on where you want the percentage for them to be. And if we're pushed that direction, obviously, I'm going to have to give you all those numbers. And so that's what I'm going to throw back at you is, I don't know I know I've looked at them before and it made their numbers go down. Is it possible? Yeah, it's absolutely possible. But what we're trying to do is maintain that majority minority district. So I could take questions, I guess.
Sure, Julie, let me ask you one. Was there a certain percentage number you had in mind when you started building House District 33 from the current boundaries? Or can you tell me what the current percentage is of Native in the current House District 33?
That we've drawn is, I had come up with 64%, but it looks like LSO had 63, so.
And do you know what the existing District 33 has?
I was gonna
What it
grab
was 10
that
years ago?
folder here.
Thanks.
So I want to say I think we had determined we had moved it up. So 61.8 is how it started. And we had worked to move things around so that our splits were better, took a lot of non-natives out of areas and made them more compact. We went down to that Riverton, South Riverton, Southeast Riverton, picked up a group there kind of in that little, right at the very south. You can see where it kind of goes above the black lines. Picked up some significant numbers for them there. Try not to touch those. I mean, Representative Clifford and our tribal leaders kind of testified in our meeting that we were doing good so far and that they had certain criteria, and I think we're meeting that. If we start pushing around into 33, I mean, I'd have to report back to them and find out how they're feeling about the numbers. I don't know what the deviation would be, the percentage would be of Native in that district at that point. I don't know. I can't answer that right now, and unless we're forced to go that direction, then like I said, we're obviously going to have to come back and tell you what we come up with.
And just one more question for me. Drawing that boundary from Shoshone further down to the Jeffrey City area, similarly not palatable. Certainly doesn't look as congruent, but I'm just guessing there's not a large amount of population further east of the Lander area.
It's not, no, as I recall, I don't have that number here, but I don't recall that the Jeffrey City area has much more. You would have to, obviously, so that it would be contiguous, you'd have to have again, you're in a rural area. You see where it's narrow there. There's just a highway. I mean, that one highway that comes down. So I don't know exactly how we jump across and figure out where that runs down to. It's not as, it might be closer to Valley's number, but I don't have that. I don't have that number. It might be less. It's a lot. I think there's a lot. I don't think the concentration is as heavy in the Jeffrey City area. I want to say like 400 something. I don't know why I think that.
And certainly House District 34 is already a very awkward shape based on House District 33's requirements. And so I was just thinking if there was a way to limit it from being a 4-hour drive from, Teton County to that Natrona Sweetwater line, we could look at that as well. Clerk Odie, go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
And I was just going to mention, I mean, driving from Hot Springs to Muddy Gap, it's going to be, a large number of hours too. Just so you know, I mean, it's not, we don't have a lot of area that isn't pretty far from one area to the other, from one corner of our county to the other. So.
All right, Mr. Odie, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did look at that southern part, southeastern part down into Jeffrey City, and just, messing around, played with those numbers. And I mean, you can take pretty much that whole area down there and you gather maybe 250 to 300 constituents is all. It's very sparse.
Other questions from the committee for either of the clerks? Senator Case, anything else?
Mr. Chairman, I'm almost hesitant to go in here, but if you look at House District 33, it's actually made up of 2 sovereign tribes, and they have completely different ways of looking at the world. It's also that, in a way, this kind of is the outline of all the Native American people. But if you were to take people away from this, you might be upsetting kind of not that there is a balance necessarily, but you'd be distorting the numbers between the 2 tribes even again. It's a real challenging place and a wonderful place, but this is part of its diversity. And a little bit of this is going through my mind, that the people that would be, let's say, disenfranchised if we moved them out of 33 and put them in a district where they wouldn't have much hope of electing someone of their kind or what they're like, or just who they would prefer. They'd have very little chance of doing that. And they'd also be predominantly, depends how you draw this, but it could be from one particular tribe, not the other. And that's a consideration. We kind of know Shoshone areas and Arapaho areas, and then there's lots and lots of intermarriage, and there's people that are both, but they usually affiliate officially as an enrolled member in one or the other. So it's a little bit more complicated than just what we've heard so far.
Mr. Swank, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I do have those numbers for the Region 8 submissions. So if you go to Region 8, their second submission that goes into Natrona County. That takes 787 out of Natrona County. Their third submission that goes into Sheridan, this actually takes the entire Ranchester voting precinct, which is 1,740. And that's one of the reasons why all the districts here significantly go up in deviation from -6 to even 25 going to positive deviation. So that population has to be redistributed throughout the region. And then the fourth submission that goes into the Valley area, this takes 739 additional people from Fremont County.
Go ahead, Senator Case.
Can we see if that precinct could be split so that we don't have to take all 1,700 people? That seems like it's a lot of overkill and a lot of disruption over on the Sheridan County side. And if we could do a smaller amount, Ms. Freese looked at trying to split the amount in Fremont County. If you only took the amount you needed, maybe 700 or whatever the minimum is, to bring them in deviation, could it be done with less disruption? And I don't know if I'm asking Mr. Swank or Mr. Odie.
Mr. Odie, go ahead. Your hand's up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Case, I believe, yeah, that it could. Yes, that it could. I apologize. I guess I hadn't, when I was taking that out, there was the blocks over there are very large. And I believe that's why we ended up with that much bigger number. But 1,740 is much more than what I remembered. But yeah, we could definitely look at paring that back, along I-80 or I-90 there, and bring that back to the west.
It does seem odd that you took Ranchester and not Dayton, even though Dayton would be a shorter drive. You almost have to go through Dayton to get to Parkman or Ranchester, and just not sure that's as palatable to me on that current shape. I could easily see Dayton and Parkman being a better choice than going all the way through Ranchester, even though I don't think that's a community of interest over the mountain myself, but I think that would be more palatable if we had to go that way, that at least Dayton was included. Go ahead, Mr. Wink.
Mr. Chairman, I did experiment with this as well for another legislative request. If you don't get to Parkman and you don't go to Dayton, in the rural area, there's only about 300 to 400 people. So that's as far as you would go, is what you'd get before you go into any of those census designated places or municipalities.
So remember too, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's what I remember too, Mr. Chairman. I apologize for jumping in.
So committee, I'm looking for any discussion if, we want to choose one of these three concept ideas to move with and ask for those county clerks to make one of those concepts below deviation, as however unenjoyable that might be. Or if this committee wants to look at allowing the basin to be drawn under deviation and what that looks like in the current plan. I think -6.2 is the highest or the lowest under deviation we currently have. And maybe that conversation depends on where we go with other parts of the state. So Representative Yin, Senator Driscoll, please jump in.
Mr. Chairman, so my opinion is I think of all the reasons, of all the regions that have justification to go below deviation, I think that the basin has one, because, the mountain passes get closed and you try going the other way into Fremont, you start pushing into the reservation, and that even puts more things at risk than the under deviation, in my opinion. So I personally would be satisfied with the Region 8 submission as it is.
And I feel exactly the same. That's where I stand. From the start, I've been for the deviation, and that's where my vote lays.
Senator Nethercott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think Representative Yan did a wonderful job of providing the lawful rationale that's required if the committee does choose to support having Region 8, below deviation, that those reasons would be found to be the right reasons for doing that. Generally speaking, I'm in support of that as well for those reasons. Of course, it will be a statewide plan, but generally speaking, I am in support of that too. Thank you.
Anyone else in the committee? Representative Roscoe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with Senator Nannacott and Representative Yin about this. And I think playing into that same, if we're going to ask for one acceptable deviation that's beyond our means, that we should really work for the rest of the state not to have any minor deviations to bring attention to our problems. So I do think we should, as we proceed with this, we should not try to make any minor deviations that are too much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
Yep, Senator Scott.
Mr. Chairman, I will say I agree with what Representative Roscoe just said. I did understand the work that Mr. Swank did in developing my statewide plan. I think by getting a small number out of Natrona County, and I forget the exact number it was less than 200. He was able to, my understanding was that he was able to keep down the invasion of the valley to the point that it just affected that one house district. Is that correct, Mr. Swank?
Mr. Swank?
Mr. Chairman, so the instructions that were provided were to utilize multiple alternative populations to include in the basin and kind of not get it from one single spot. So in the plan, if I may share that.
Yeah, share it.
What it does is it takes in the rest of the park, similar to the Region 8 submissions. It also takes in 2 voting precincts in northwest Natrona County. It's a large area, but it's only 149 people. It's the Powder River precinct, and then I believe it's the Willow Creek precinct. And then the rest of it does come from the valley. I obviously do not know the transportation geography, that sort of thing, but I believe the ending additional population from this area is about 460 people instead of the 700 and I believe 39 from the Region 8 submission. So it tries to balance all of those. Again, trying to look at Sheridan County, just trying to get west of Dayton and Parkman only gathers about probably about 300 people. So that is the configuration of Region 8. All districts are within deviation. However, I believe almost all of them are at the bare minimum.
And so, Mr. Swank, in the plan that's being shown, this actually has the House district. I don't know the number, but primarily Washakie County, the district going into northwestern Natrona. And I guess my question would probably be for either Senator Scott or someone more familiar with this area. If those, how many? 400 people?
149.
149 people would be, more aligned with the Lost Cabin area in Fremont County, or if they really are more aligned with 10 Sleep and Happy Trail.
There.
Washakie. Go ahead, Senator.
Mr. Chairman, from what I know of them, and I do represent that area and used to represent the Lyside area in Fremont County a couple of reapportionments ago, they're aligned with both of them. Similar kind of ranching things with the Washakie County ones. A bunch of those people share summer ranges or neighbor on summer ranges, and so they know each other. And frankly, the Willow Creek precinct is aligned with KC. There is a commonality with both of the House districts there in the basin.
And so just looking at that currently committee, you're looking at 2 different House districts, 1 in 3 counties, 1 in 4 counties, and that assumed state Senate district, which is how it's paired now, would be in 6 counties, which seems like a lot to represent for one state senator. Not that I think it's for Senator Cooper right now, kind of lives right in the middle, but that would be an interesting thought to have one state senator in 6 counties.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, frankly, my opinion is it would, that I think the one that we're talking about probably is, if you have to get within deviation, it's probably the best way to do it. But I do think we would be better using it as eventually as a backup plan in case the court struck down a one that had a little higher deviation in the basin.
So committee, I guess I'm looking if there is any motion on any of those three submittals from the basin region that the committee wants to converse about and move forward on as a substitute for the current map that is at what, negative 6.2 deviation. That's kind of what I'm looking for, either a motion or we're good with how it is. Representative Yin, do you have thoughts?
Mr. Chairman, sure, yeah, I will make a motion. I think I'll move for the basin plan to be accepted outside of deviation. So their original submission from the previous meeting. And have that integrated into the compilation one plan.
Roscoe's seconding that. And so, well, I'm not sure we need a motion. I guess it is probably good for the record as well to see what the committee support is on that deviation. So any other discussion on leaving the greater basin area at the negative 6.2 deviation? Representative Clausen, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, just for discussion's sake, all of these plans could be a backup plan as far as that goes. If we run into something where we have to go the extra 1.2% or we decide we have to go, none of those plans are unreasonable. But I think right now the under variation plan is the most reasonable. And if we need to move in those directions, we certainly can down the road.
Any further comment from the committee? Seeing none, all the committee who's in favor of the current plan as presented for the Bighorn Basin with the max district being at negative 6.2 deviation, raise your hand. All those opposed?
No.
Got 1, 2, 2. Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Scott.
Scott on the phone, I voted aye.
Okay. And Ms. Talbot, you've got and we have the recording. All right. Any other conversation regarding the Bighorn Basin Committee? I see Representative Ottman on. I didn't mean to overlook you, Representative Ottman. Do you have anything while we're in this part of the state to share?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Of course, I'm in support of what you just did. The Valley is very important to this community. So I thank you for all your hard work and we'll just continue to go on. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. All right, committee. I guess we're going to go to the rest of the state now, the eastern part. Maybe we can start with looking at the two submissions from the northeast part of the state. That was kind of our next ask. Mr. Swank, if you could pull those up.
Mr. Chairman, do you want to start with the Region 7 submissions or the Region 6 submissions for the same area?
I didn't mean more logical in that sense to bias it, but which would make more sense to present for?
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Boner, which one do you want to start with?
Well, yeah, sure, Mr. Chairman, since it's kind of a combined region based off the direction from the committee. Last meeting, we have three basic plans for both regions 6 and 7. The first one, I think, could be described as the one that keeps Campbell County whole. That is one that is clearly the Campbell County position. There's another one, actually, there's a duplicate that keeps Weston County whole. That is a complete submission that it takes into account all the counties in region 6 and 7, whereas and that's an important distinction from the Campbell County one, which only contemplates Campbell County. And then we have a final one that was
because otherwise we're going to go one of those. I mean,
looks like somebody has her. Okay. All right. So anyways, so then we have a final one that's kind of like a compromise between the two that splits up both Campbell and Weston County, but not as bad as if the other county stays whole. And so just a little bit discussion about the process. Certainly the clerks were the ones that did most of the work on actually getting the maps together, but this has definitely been a collaborative effort between the legislators in the area and the clerks. You'll see that, like I said, some plans are complete plans. The Campbell County one only as a starting point contemplates what happens when Campbell County retains 5 House districts. And so we're going to leave it to, I think Representative Barlow is on the line for Campbell County. I assume we have some representation from Weston County that would like to take the lead in discussing either of their plans, but and then I'll probably take, and our fellow Region 7 legislators will take that last plan, that's sort of the split between the two differing perspectives. At this point, there's been no resolution in that fundamental conflict between keeping Campbell County whole and keeping Weston County whole. There does have to be a resolution one way or the other. Either this committee decides in favor of one of those counties, or we come up with a compromise that sort of splits the difference. And so that's kind of the overview of where we're at. Certainly can't represent that we have unanimous consent among the legislators and clerks within the region. And I simply point out that we do need the committee's direction to move forward, and we're going to have to resolve this difference this difference between Campbell and Weston County for those two counties, one way or the other. So that's kind of the overview. Certainly, we have 2 other legislators or a few other legislators on the line that could certainly correct any misperceptions I may have shared there, but I'd certainly leave it to folks from Campbell County. I think Representative Barrow, like I said, is on the line and could probably, if we want to start there, we can start there with Campbell County submission, then perhaps Weston counties, and then we can go with the compromise if that works for you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, the plan that was just up, do you know where this submission came from, Senator Boner? This is a Weston County stays whole plan.
Yes, this is the Weston County position. I can explain if you'd like, or I believe there's somebody from Weston County probably be better, or Senator Driscoll, whoever wants to take it.
Well, we certainly have some commissioners here, but Senator Driscoll or whoever submitted it. I know Mr. Irvin is here. Do you want to come down? We have actually the Platte County clerk here, also president of the County Clerks Association. So he would enjoy taking the first whack at this plan. Welcome, Malcolm.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that Senator Boner really identified the issue as just direction from the committee. Which way are we going? And really, I think Weston remaining whole is the significant question. And so the plan that's up now on the screen started with the premise that Weston County would remain whole. And like Senator Boner said, it was a collaborative effort between 6 of the 7 clerks. The Campbell County clerk was excluded from this by her request, just knowing that she had some work within her county and her legislators and wouldn't be able to get all of that input in time. And so I actually drew the boundaries in Campbell, not to by any means to say this is the way it should be. I just put myself in Clerk Saunders' shoes and thought, if I was the clerk up there, what would make sense from an election lens? And so, Mr. Chairman, obviously, if Weston remains whole, Crook County will need some friends, and the only place they can get them is in Campbell County. And so Weston would obviously stay with Niobrara County, gain some population from Goshen County. That map has 625 people from Goshen going north. That does force a 3-way split in Goshen County because now Converse will be short. So Platte will give 646 people to Converse. Goshen County sends, I think, 1,901 people to Platte. And so it really is everybody gets pieced up with the exception of Weston County and Niobrara County. So, Mr. Chairman, that would be our submission for just starting with the premise that Weston County would remain whole.
Okay, and Senator Driscoll wants to jump in here. Senator, go ahead.
Thank you. I think good job, Malcolm. I very much appreciate it. That's exactly the way we looked. My perception on this has been, we've been through it a lot of ways. Any way you do it, if Weston stays whole, one county takes a three-way split, one of them. It doesn't matter how you work the process. My belief from the start has been when Weston's whole, then the other counties can decide how it falls. We, from the start, that's been the take of Weston County as well, I believe, is as long as they're whole, it's up to outside of that area to decide how they want to see it. And I'm definitely that way. Should Crook end up into Campbell, we have no claim on which way it should go in Campbell County. Leave it to Campbell County if that's where the will of the committee is at. And I believe the same is true for Weston. If they're whole, it's up to the District 7 to decide how they'd like to see those other pieces fall, and because it can go a couple different ways. So this is the one plan that I'm fully in support of, is anything that leaves Weston whole. And there's some pretty good reasoning behind it. And I guess I've got one question for Malcolm, is I believe this does leave every one of the counties with one whole rep basically within their boundaries as a whole, other than Weston has to have a piece of another. I believe that's correct. And I think that comes the closest to following the intent of our founders, is to have it where each county has at least the possibility of a representative inside their boundary with the biggest block that they can have. And that's kind of what I've strived to be at. So with that, I'd stand for questions.
Anyone questions for Senator Driscoll? If not, turn it back over. So, Mr. Irvin, as you can look at this map, it keeps Weston County whole, but it certainly divides Goshen into three. It divides your county of Platte into two. That's the first time I've really seen any map drawn yet that has Platte not fully as one district. And then you also have kind of an interesting carve out in Converse County of dividing their population in half. So you would probably still generally guarantee a seat in Converse County, but it wouldn't be for sure. Do you know how many people are in your segmented portion of Platte County in this plan?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, 646. And I do have to apologize to the committee because I didn't think about submitting something that would say how many people from each county were part of these districts. And so a very late submission. Thank you to Mr. Swank for getting it in the meeting materials online. But I did submit a memo that has what the population split between county is. So for Platte, Mr. Chairman, 646 would go to Goshen's 8,681.
And is it fair to say that you didn't talk necessarily to your constituency in Platte County about this map, or do you believe they would have thoughts?
Mr. Chairman, in Platte County specifically, their position and the people in Platte County want to remain whole. I think every county has that same desire. The folks in Glendo want to have the opportunity to vote for somebody who likely lives in Platte County. But when the question was posed, if Platte was to be split, where would you do it? That would be the logical place. A number of people in Glendo work in Converse County. Some of them have 13 county plates. I don't personally hold it against them, but when the question was, if Platte had to be split, where would you do it? That was the place to do it. That wouldn't necessarily be their first choice, but I think it would be an understanding choice to those folks. But again, Platte's position has been those folks in that county want to have the ability to vote for somebody who is guaranteed to live there, or if not likely to live there.
Senator Boner, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to, I guess, answer one of Senator Driscoll's questions, Converse County would be the one county that doesn't have a House seat completely within its county, and so that would be a minor drawback there. From our perspective, also, if we go with this plan, how you nest the Senate seats becomes very important. I said not just because I'm a senator, but because you have two counties that are similar in population, that being Converse and Goshen County, each have roughly about 70% of what it would take to justify a full Senate seat. If you do this the wrong way, you split those counties in such a way that they're actually a minority in the the two Senate districts that they're in. And so then all of a sudden we'd see a significant change when it comes to the Senate districts, and that, you'd have, as far as the Senate goes, Platte and Goshen being paired together, and Converse and Campbell County being paired together. It's a significant departure from the status quo. So I think it's important for all of us to keep that in mind. It's you could say that maybe from Converse County's perspective, we come out ahead because we're split two ways instead of three, but we also see a lot of downside to that, and that you don't have a House seat completely within your county, and you also run the risk of losing all your representation in the Senate.
So we're going to keep up with committee questions, and then we'll go to legislators and then some other public comment from elected officials. I know we have a lot here. So Senator Driscoll or Representative Yen, you're up.
I'd ask, how many is Converse short under this scenario? Because that's what I have strived for, is to keep one in every district. So kind of looking at the base numbers of what there'd be in Converse in that biggest district.
Mr. Irvin, if you know off the top of your head.
Mr. Chairman, to get to the minimum in the ballpark of 350 to get to deviation. If Platte sends 646 to Converse, that is still under the ideal of 9614. But about 450 would get you to the minimum, Mr. Chairman.
So they're short on having one standalone rep completely inside their district. How many are they short from standard deviation?
Mr. Chairman, in this plan, at about 800.
They're going to be at 90-some% of a full rep anyway.
Outside of this plan, Mr. Chairman, Converse has the ability to have a representative district all within their boundaries. But this plan, Mr. Chairman, didn't allow for that.
And it does seem odd to me. Most of the districts in this plan are above deviation, 3 or 4%, everything but District 6, which I'm not sure which one District 6 is on this map, but several of the other districts are at 4.5, 3.72, 4.34, which makes it a little difficult that you're drawing everything a little above deviation besides District 6 in this plan. Representative Yin, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, Clerk Irvin, sorry if I mispronounced that. So can you explain to me, I know Weston and Niobrara by itself is pretty close to the ideal district. Is the reason that it also has to cross into Goshen County is because if Laramie County is doesn't share with Goshen, it means that we have to draw everything above deviation, and so that district has to dip into somewhere else. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, that's correct, Representative Yin. Based off the direction from the committee after the last meeting, the motion that was approved that Senator Boner made was that regions 6 and 7 would work within themselves. So Representative Yin, we took that direction, and you are correct. Goshen just had too many to not be a helping neighbor to the north, and so had to add some folks to that Weston Niobrara district.
Because I believe with the numbers up in Vienne, you could have just Weston and Niobrara. They're at 0.97, so within deviation of being one rep for both of them. But in my conversations, I have heard people in the northern part of Goshen around JM as well, go into the Lusk area more than they come down in the Torrington area. And so I do believe that part of the county would probably be agreeable to moving north, but I'm sure Representative Duncan could correct me as it's her county if she thinks I'm saying something I shouldn't be. Other committee questions before I turn it over to other legislators in the room? Seeing none, Rep. Nyman, you get to go up first. Thoughts on this plan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I just want to stop and tell everybody thank you for all their hard work. The clerks have done a phenomenal job. I appreciate my clerks up in this northeast corner, and I just want to share my support for this plan to keep Weston County whole, because I believe, and all the indications are to us up here, is that Cook County is more than willing to work with Campbell County. We look forward to being able to share and work with them as representative district. I'll take that
Mr. Representative Fortin, we can't hear you. Can you repeat the last part? What was that, Nyman? I'm sorry. I apologize. I knew it was Nyman too. Could
hear me?
you get a little closer to the mic?
That better?
I
you
think
hear
so.
anything?
Let's try it again.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to say that I just want to stop and just give you guys my view on it and support of the plan to keep Weston County whole. Cook County is more than willing to work with Campbell County to make up for that other district. I believe that it would work well. It's a community of interest. The northern part is more rural. It fit more of the Campbell and Crook working together on that, which would allow for the ability of Weston to be whole. I know the desire of the folks of Weston County are very, very much in favor of being able to be whole. And if Niobrara and Northern Goshen can work together, then that could be a very good combination as well. I really appreciate the work of the clerks to be able to sit down and put this together and develop these communities of interest. But just so that you folks know, going forward, I do support this plan. The folks in my district support this plan, and we'll be very willing to work again with the folks in Campbell County to provide that District 1 up here in the northeast corner and allow Weston the opportunity to be able to be whole. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative Nyman. Any questions for Representative Nyman? Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Speaker, would you like to go next?
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Eric Barlow, House District 3. So I think you want me to restrain my comments to the current plan that's before you, I'm sure. So I would say two things. Fundamentally, before the committee for the Eastern Bloc, Eastern side of the state, as the clerk from Platte County said, the question is, does Weston stay whole and the rest of us work with it? And it's very workable. The one caveat I would say about Weston staying whole, Crook working with Campbell, Campbell working with Converse is I am very reticent to not have Converse have its own seat entirely within its boundaries. And that means, what we've done here is Campbell by itself, which is certainly Campbell County's preferred plan, but we understand we can work with our neighbors. Campbell County is at -2.2 for 5 seats. When you take all of regions 6 and 7, the average deviation goes up to +2.3. So we go from 94.05 in Campbell County to 98.36. That 98.36 number is what pushes the districts down and then makes Converse County have to share into Platte County to have a complete district. So I guess my preference would be if we're going to go, if the committee chooses to go with a Weston whole, that we can stay in the north part, we can stay closer to ideal deviation statewide. And at the southern end, the folks that want to go at the southern end, they can go to +4, +4.5, and we'll get very close, maybe even get to 5, and we'll get very close, and it'll actually honor everybody's wishes. Weston will stay whole, Crook will stay whole, Campbell will have 4 whole seats, a minority of 1 with Crook, and then a majority of 1 with Converse. Converse will have an entire seat to itself. Platte will stay whole, and then the question will be is how does Goshen County want to share? Do they want to share to the north with the folks in Niobrara Weston, or do they want to, or not something else? So that's the fundamental question. What happens to Weston? And this is the map you're on. And then if you share, if we're going to take the regional average, I would much rather the regional average or the average be 96.14 for Campbell County and our partners. Let the other folks absorb the other folks to get to what they need to. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Stand for any questions.
Questions for Speaker Barlow? Not seeing any others. Thank you. Representative Barlow, Representative Hallinan, you want to jump in on this? Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I have a fairly extensive presentation I'd like to make on Campbell County's position. I think that we need our 5 representatives in Campbell County. And I don't think that we need to share them. The amount that goes to Crook County out of Campbell County is 2,433. The amount that goes from Campbell County into Weston County, if they're going to both have a rep out of Campbell County's numbers, is 2,786. So Campbell County would be running about 5,219 people would be taken out of our county and put into those two counties. And then
you did get a handout this morning from Representative Hallinan, an Excel spreadsheet detailing these numbers if you want to follow along. I know that
Right.
was the committee and his materials out front as well. Go ahead.
so that by the 9614 number that we have for the representatives around the state, Crook would be entitled to 0.746, and Weston would be entitled to 0.710. Campbell County is entitled to 4.89, which is very close to the 5 that I think we should have. The amount that, and the 5 and the districts that we've set up, and we've got that in our map that has been made available to everybody, is about a 2% deficit from that 9614. So it's well within the percentage numbers that are allowed. The deficit for Crook County would be 0.25 reps, and the deficit for Weston County is 0.28 reps. So I understand that the senator favors having one county, having one vote, having one rep, but Niobrara isn't going to have one vote under this plan. And that would necessarily show that one county, one vote thing no longer applies to our state. And if we take and put that remainder, if we take a portion of Campbell County and put it into Weston County, according to this, 0.25 reps and 0.24 reps for Crook County, that would still leave 0.34 reps from Campbell County to go to Converse County. So that would take another 3,000 voters out of Campbell County and put them into Converse County. So I'm not going to make any kind of presentation for the entire state, but I think Campbell County is entitled to having 5 reps based on these numbers. And I don't think that we want to share 2,500 people with Crook County. Why should we do that? I don't understand why we want to do that. When we have our own reps, we have 5 reps now, including Representative Barlow, because we make up the majority of his district, of District 3. Campbell County makes up that majority. So it's only fair that we'd have at least the same number that we have now, have 5 reps available to us. So that's my presentation. So I would be in favor of having 5 reps for Campbell County. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Representative Hallinan. I guess any questions on Representative Hallinan's spreadsheet or thoughts? Not seeing any right now, Representative. Thank you for providing that. I did pass that handout out to the committee and is here on those numbers for the Excel spreadsheet that you distributed. So certainly appreciate that and you appearing today. Any other legislators you want jumping on this plan? Or you want to wait for the next one, Representative or Senator? Next one, this one. Come on down, Representative Fortner. And Senator McEwen, welcome both.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and board members. I have grave concerns over the whole process. I don't believe you could shuck up a bag of snakes and come up with a worse mess than what we've got here in the state of Wyoming. Not only is it hard for us to understand after we've been dug into it for a couple of months. The people of the state.
I was wondering, Representative Fortner, if you could pull that microphone closer because I wasn't.
Thank you, sir.
That's
Thank
a
you,
lot
Senator
better that
Case.
way. Thank you.
I got some new hearing aids, so I can hear myself real good now, so I don't speak up that loud. So thank you. But anyways, getting back to what I was saying, this is such a mess that I can't believe that the founding fathers would even entertain something like this. Not only is it hard for us as legislators to understand this process and where it come from, I still have nobody has told me where the statute is at for the mechanism set in place for when you reach to a certain population number that you get the extra House representatives and Senate and stuff. Nobody can give me that statute. So how can you give me a statute that walks it back when you do reach that mechanism? Where is that statute at? Because I thought we was dealing with laws in this body and in this house and down here in Cheyenne. I thought that we deal with laws. I thought we dealt with policy. I thought we dealt with rule. Where's all that at? I haven't seen it. Nobody can give it to me. I've talked to LSO. I've talked to Secretary of State. It's an unwritten rule to me. Why are we doing this? Why hasn't this been addressed, put in law towards our Constitution? I do not understand the process. I do not understand the system. I think it's a mess myself. Can you give me some kind of insight to tell me that I'm wrong? Because the voters have no idea. They're shocked, to be honest with you.
I think that's probably very true, Representative, that the Constitution says the legislature shall redistrict. And from my understanding, the legislature has never put down any type of statutory laws related to how we redistrict. It just happens once every 10 years. And whoever is in office at the time has tried to do what's right outside of the 1992 court-forced redistricting, where kind of the court policy has come in and told us how we have to further align. And so we're really doing it by judicial mandate in some respects. And we haven't put statutes in place, even in regard to that Supreme Court case. But Senator Case is going to jump in with the Constitution at this point.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I guess I need to ask a question first. What, Representative Fortin, what do you object against? The population-based districts that don't follow the county lines? Is that what you're trying to say?
No, sir. That's
okay.
That's not it at all. My objection is that when just Campbell County, for example, now Cheyenne, Laramie County is going through the same scenario. We reached our population numbers required to add an extra representative and a half senator. I want to know how that process played out because now we're walking that back to make a county that's not whole. We're going to rob from Peter to pay Paul, and we're going to walk that back for Weston County, and we're going to make them whole and make Campbell County not whole no more with the population numbers that was required by the census back in 2010. It looks to me, I can see why so many of these kind of why there's so much dispute here and why it possibly be called gerrymandering. There's nothing set in rule, nothing set in law. It's just we're bouncing off of some federal rules, I guess, maybe, I don't know. Why is that? Why don't we codify in law how this process plays out? Because I can make it real easy for you. If we want everybody to be whole, let's give every county a senator, one senator, and every county 2 representatives, and call it good. We won't have to go through this mess every 10 years. And we could say, well, you know what? The lines look good to us every 10 years. We might want to draw the city in a little bit, a little bit more population here. But just because the Constitution says that and don't give us any basis to apply it, I think that's plumb ridiculous myself. I have no idea who in their right mind would come up with something like this in 1990 or 1890. When the settlers was coming, population was starting to pile in, the railroad kicked off. How you're getting people moving to Wyoming, citizens. I cannot believe that our founding fathers would have created a nightmare like this. I really can't. You know, and I'm not taking anything away from the work you guys do. The men and women here in Cheyenne and in the capital, the laws that we make and the laws that we present to the public, I'm not saying they're all great laws. You know, we just went through a special session. I didn't agree with that a bit. I'll be honest with you. I thought that we cheated the people of Wyoming on what our Constitution guarantees them, really. But this here is a whole different beast for me. I do not understand how we can be creating policy over nothing that's codified in law. I don't understand it. It makes no sense to me. I can see why people are going to try gerrymandering on this. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if I have a question, but
Sure, go ahead.
I think it's important that people, you know, of the state really understand that there is a different side to that. And Representative Fortner, it's just, our Constitution does direct us to apportion the legislature based on population. It does. And it was passed by the people of Wyoming. It's Article 3, Section 48. And it requires the legislature to apportion the districts based on the census population. Now, Constitution is higher than law. And even higher than that, sir, is the federal Constitution. And that's where we tripped it up. Because under the federal Constitution, as interpreted by the courts, they have ruled that counties are not sovereign entities in essence. States are. States are sovereign. That's why in the Constitution of the United States, we can have 2 senators and a variable number of representatives. Counties enjoy no sovereignty. It's not I'm not saying it one way or the other. Courts have ruled that they're not sovereign and that apportionment based on county boundaries must fall way short of apportionment based on population. And this is due to a direct amendment to the US Constitution, which would be the 14th Amendment, which means that we all should have equal standing to vote. And then also the Voting Rights Act, passed in the 1960s. And as it was implemented finally in Wyoming, was a court case that went to the Wyoming Supreme Court, and it was called Gore v. Carpin. And they said very clearly that we had to do this to apportion the legislature. All of those are constitutional issues, higher than statute. Even the rulings by the court, because they interpret the Constitution, rise above the statute. So that's why we don't have a statute. We do have plenty of direction on this, and we're implementing it. And further, the court said that we needed to disregard the part of the Wyoming Constitution that apportions based on counties. It's not my idea, but it is the standing of the law. It's the standing of constitutional law, which is higher than any statute we could write. We cannot write a statute and vote on it and have it rise to that level of height. And I'm not a lawyer, sir, but I've been doing this a long time. And this is my 3rd time going through redistricting. And the first time was the first time that we had districts in Wyoming when I ran. And this is the burden we all have, and we have to do this. And saying that there's another way to do it, we throw it out, and raising concerns out there and among our people that we're doing something wrong is absolutely wrong, because we are doing what's constitutionally mandated.
May I respond, Mr. Chairman?
Sure, Representative Fortner.
I realize that the Wyoming Constitution is the supreme law of Wyoming, and the federal Constitution is the supreme law of the land. I realize that, and I'm not arguing that. What I'm saying is, in our Constitution, where does it lay out in there that they can take where you've already reached the mechanism to pick up an extra senator or a senator or 2 representatives? Where does it say that in there? Surely there has to be a subsection to that in the Constitution that walks that back. That says, okay, now you reach the population number. This is where you're at, Campbell County. You got 5 representatives, 2.5 senators. Where in that same Constitution does it walk that back, saying, okay, now we're going to take somebody, for example, it's not whole Weston County, which does not have the the numbers to be whole. But by the way, they do have 2 senators and 2 representatives for Weston County. So I mean, they're well represented, probably more represented than any other county. So I mean, that's my question. Where is that mechanism in that law to walk that backwards once you've already hit that goal? You know, other than losing population, say if we had a bust or traumatic bust like they did in Jeffrey City or many other places around Wyoming, and you come a ghost town, I mean, then you automatically, I could see where you walk that back, but not if you're maintaining the numbers according to the census, to the Constitution, a constitutional census by the federal government. That's my question, sir. I'm not disputing what you're doing. I'm not telling you you're wrong, but I'm just saying, I don't see it. And I'm not a lawyer either. I'm just a dumb welder by trade.
And I think, I mean, the great thing about the Constitution, it also allows the legislature to set how many seats there are. And so depending on how many seats we agreed to be a legislative body, certainly mandates and affects the numbers from each county. But after the Supreme Court decision, Gordon v. Carpenter in 92, we've had to do a different way of doing things. And we keep kind of trying to make sure we don't get litigated again. Because all we hear at these national seminars are that they're still litigating from 2010, right? 2012, 10 years later, about how everybody does redistricting wrong. But that's a constitutional prerogative. I know there've been some people out there that are calling for independent commissions and other things. And we could certainly put something else in statute. I think the fear would be that, you know, any legislature in the future could take it out of statute and change it again. So it's kind of where we are. Anything else, Mr. Fortner? Senator McCune, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Afternoon, everybody. I'm going to take a different tack to discuss this from what my voters think and what we're possibly going to consider doing. We're going to take a whole lot of people out of Campbell County, and we're going to assign it to other counties to make them whole. So in the process, we are literally breaking Campbell County to fix other counties. We have a 3-way split in one county, a 2-way split in another county, another 3-way split. And depending how we put it, we take and make Converse County or Niobrara County not have a representative, but we're going to save Weston. At the end of the day, Campbell County has enough for the 5 representatives and the 2.5 senators. And to divide them out just doesn't seem fair. I've heard statements made through this process, there'll be winners and losers. And are y'all as a committee going to pick the winners and losers based on Weston County wants to be whole, but they're 0.72? So we'll just give you some of Campbell County. Let's take some out of Laramie. We could probably find a way to get some out of Carbon over there if we really wanted to. Wouldn't make a lot of sense, but it could be done. And I understood what Senator Case was saying, and I agree with him wholly. There is a process, there are rules, and everybody's doing a lot of hard work on this. But the biggest point I want to get across today is we've also been doing a lot of hard work on maps too. It doesn't seem like it because we've only submitted 2. But at our last county meeting, we voted on the 3 different proposals. 5 of the elected people out of 7 were at the meeting, voted for it. 2 left before the vote. 4 of the 5 county commissioners are supporting us. So I just would say it feels a lot like we're going to break Campbell County and create more problems to fix one county and at the end of the day, disenfranchise the voters in Campbell County. And we talk one man, one vote. We just got rid of about 9,000 people out of Campbell County to make everybody else happy. And we're being good neighbors. I would challenge that there's not one of us in this room that would like to go back and tell our constituents, hey, thanks for voting for me, but I'm giving you out to Weston. I'm giving you to Converse. There was a plan to split right. That would have been devastating. And so as we go through these plans, I would ask that we really look at the greater good versus the quick fix. If they don't have the population, we shouldn't go find it for them. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. And yeah, certainly there will be winners and losers on whatever this committee plan puts forward that goes to the full legislature. And I think we're all fairly confident that there will be amendments on the floor to the plan, and the body will rule. Representative Fortner?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to say one more thing. And I again want to say thank you guys for doing what you're doing. You know, I've been to a few of these. I went one in Sheridan and this one, then a couple online. But anyways, I know it's been a bigger headache for you guys than it ever has any of us. We're getting ready to get our crack at it in February. I know we are, but what I want people to know more than anything is what we're doing is we're plotting county against county with this process. We're plotting Campbell County against Weston County, Crook County. We're arguing when we shouldn't be arguing. We're making gestures that people's taken wrong. Again, I just think it's a heck of a mess, but I want everybody in the state to know that we're representing the people in our districts first. When we represent the state, that's the way I look at it. When they put me in office, I made a promise to them I was representing the people in my district, District 52. I wasn't representing the people in Laramie County or any other county. But that don't mean I'm at odds with any county in the state of Wyoming, because I've worked in every county in the state of Wyoming. Wyoming is my home. I'm a 4th generation born native of Campbell County, 5th generation to enjoy Wyoming as a whole. And I believe I'll be here till the day I die, But so I'm not out to plot to make enemies from anybody in any county or an enemy of a county. That's just not what we're doing. But people need to understand, the system, if we could put things in statute to make this a whole lot simpler, I think throughout the decades to come, the citizens of Wyoming will sure appreciate it. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Any questions for either Senator McEwen or Representative Fortner? I'll have them. Seeing the Representative Roscoe, jump on in.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If it's okay, we're abiding by this one man, one opinion. That was a joke. I just think that, county, I represent 3 different counties, and I'm sure some of them aren't happy that I live in a different county, but really county business is taken on by the county commissioners. And so, if you're from a different county, it's not like you're from a different country, we're all kind of in this together. So it's my opinion that we're working together as the state, and our issues are highways, law enforcement, and various things. And it's not really county oriented. So there's a whole lot in this that we hear about every time we have a meeting about my county, this county, that, and it's not, I just don't see it that way. So that's just my opinion. So I just thought I'd add that because I hear it a lot. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
And I do think it plays a strong role when we have funding battles, and which legislators are from which counties, and where, what are high impact counties, what are, school, some of the money that has to come back, reimbursement counties, right? There's a lot of financial things for the next 10 years, depending how this plan gets drawn, on which districts are better represented and which counties might have more of a proportion. So No, it's not a completely fair process. I don't know how you make it a fair process unless you just put splotches on a map or we draw county lines to legislative boundaries. That'd be interesting. Seeing other further comments? Nope, thank you very much, Representative Fortner, Senator McEwen. Commissioners? Representative Byrd. Hi, Representative Byrd. Floor is yours.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
All right. Try to get my camera going here. It's kind of a finicky one. While I work on that, I'll just I want to keep it quick. I know there's a lot going on. I do appreciate the committee's work, everything everybody has put in. I know that this process, even though it's my first go around on the inside of watching this process, I'm not at the level where you guys, where the whole committee's working at. So I just want to first off say thank you for everything that everybody's put into it, from all the region planners as well as the committee. So let me start off with that. I want to just go on the record here and say we're working on this the newest map that rolled out here. That the way that Sweetwater County has been basically kind of, I'm going to call it piecemeal together. It is something that I just don't agree with or support. And for a number of different reasons, we've heard from a couple of legislators and representatives how, citizens of their counties expect their representatives to kind of live within those counties to be able to have better representation. They understand what those counties are about and stuff like that. This current map proposal really changes up every map that I've seen and that I've been part of, whether it's town halls or Region 9 meetings. And I'm not really sure where this particular map comes from. A lot of the concerns I have are, to get from, the eastern portion of this proposed map to my western portion, it's a 3-hour drive. We're looking at 2 different counties, 2 different economies. We're looking at Green River is mine-based, Natrona mines, railroads, and you're looking at the Saratoga encampment areas are lumber industries. And I think if we look at this map as the way that it's set up, I would have to travel through 3 separate districts just to continue through my district. And I think, we'd be doing a disservice to, the voters of these districts and of these counties, and actually watering down their voices and their votes.
And so Representative Burt, we were kind of in the middle of an ongoing discussion about northeastern Wyoming between Campbell, Crook, Weston, and I'm not sure when you jumped on the Zoom, and I don't know if you're available to hang out for another 45 minutes or so. We're going to get to that portion of the state. If you're not, while you have the floor, keep going, but we're kind of focusing right now in the northeast sector for the next 20 minutes or so.
I can definitely wait, Mr. Chairman. I apologize. I just heard any other comments and I don't know if you're going to move on to something else. So I will get back in my corner, but thank you.
Okay, talk to you soon. With that, other comments on the current plan from anyone else in the audience? Not at this time. Can you? Representative Hallinan, do you want to say something again? Go ahead. Maybe he's not there. Mr. Wade, you can have the floor.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
This looks like a hard process. Maybe the best you can do is make everyone equally mad. I don't know. With this current plan you have up, I just want to point out it would give Weston County 69, just right a little less than 69% of the population. And so that leaves Niobrara County and Goshen County at quite a disadvantage. We certainly don't have any problems working with Weston County. We've got a long history of doing that, but this does leave us at quite a disadvantage. Thank you.
And so, Mr. Wade, I don't know, is there a different plan that you think works better for Niobrara? I know it's just, it's difficult being the least populous county and also in the middle of kind of 4 or 5 other counties that are all arguing over where to get an extra couple thousand people. But while I have you, is there a, from your voters and your constituency, I mean, is there a preferred route? I know we've heard from your county clerk a couple times, but while I have you, if there's a way forward that you would like us to consider, certainly allow you that opportunity.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm here with our county clerk, Becky Freeman, and we're thinking that the Plan 3 probably works best for Niobrara County. It does split Weston County.
Okay. Well, we'll get to that in a second. Thank you very much, Mr. Wade. As we keep talking about plans, don't go too far. Representative Hallinan, do you want back in?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity to testify before you. I think that you guys have a very difficult job, and I give you credit for that. I'd say that this map, I'm talking about the map of Campbell County, with Crook County having the northwest part of it. That would be about a 2,500 number of voters up there, 2,500 people up there. And we are, according to the census figures, we're about 9,000 above the amount for 4 representatives. So if we take off 2,500 off of that, that'll leave about 6,500 that would have to go to Converse County. And 6,500 would make that area, I think that would lower their percentage to less than the amount that they would need for a district. I don't know for sure, but I think they might. 6,500 from Campbell County in Converse County. So I think that this would also cause the issue of the present distribution, with Crook County taking the northern half of Weston County. I think those 2 counties are very similar. And that has been the division previously. And I think it's one that we ought to keep in mind and we ought to keep in place, because that's been a reasonable distribution of the districts previously. And Campbell County could stay whole in that case. And Crook County would take the biggest majority of the district up there, and Weston County would take up about 1/3, I guess. And that would be the appropriate division. So that's the division that I would favor, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Based on history.
It would look closer to what is currently in place. That is true. Questions for Representative Hallinan? Not seeing any. Thanks, Tim. Further discussion on this plan we have pulled up. Otherwise, we can certainly pull up the other plan as well. You want to, commissioners, come on down. That'd be great.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. We really appreciate you allowing us to speak. We kind of expected to at 9:30 this morning, so we got a good tour of the city of Cheyenne. So, no, it's not a problem. We are in support of this plan. We would like to keep Weston County as it has been stated, and with Niobrara County, in response to the comment that was made. Weston County for 10 years had a representative from Niobrara County. So let's leave this to the voters. They're pretty good at it. Our other thought is we respectfully request that if we retain the Senator Scott and stay within the 3 counties and accept the deviation. And this might be the time for us to have that challenge because of Reynolds versus Sims, that it does state that the 10% is a suggestion and that you are to keep the ideas and you put them in your rules of compact counties and all that. So we would like to, this might be that time. So we respectfully would request either the two. Thank you very much.
And then Commissioner, do you believe your county has thoughts on if Southern Campbell or Southern Crook might be a better fit if we were to, leave you whole and not go through Niobrara? Is there a preferred alternative? We did have the existing plan from last month that put Crook, Weston, and Campbell in a region. What do you feel, I guess, looks best? Southern Campbell, or do you think it's time for Crook to take the split since Weston had to for the last decade? Or is there an agreement?
Mr. Chairman, I would agree with that, but I think we are able to solve those if you were to require us to stay within there.
Commissioner Wagner?
I'm sorry.
I'd just like to, what Commissioner Ertman said, just support that. We've been split for 10 years and it's worked at times and times it hasn't worked. And I guess my question is it time for somebody else to be split for a while?
All right. Thank you very much. I'm going to bring in Commissioner Taylor. He's getting situated. Welcome, Commissioner. You can hear me. The floor is yours.
Can you hear me, Mr. Chairman?
Yep, certainly can. Go
Sorry,
ahead.
sorry for the delay. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I also support my fellow commissioners there in this plan. You guys have a monumental task to accomplish this, but I still hear, which is very frustrating, these other counties, specifically Campbell County, is perfectly fine with splitting us up for another 10 years as long as they don't get touched. And then they address it as it's a problem and they're not being good neighbors. We have had this problem for 10 years. We're not asking for some kind of a gift. We're asking for the opportunity to stay whole and be representative. And it's still very frustrating to hear that we're arguing, they get 3, we get 7/10. But they're doing their job and I understand that. But Weston County's constituents have asked to stay whole. So I definitely support that plan and I support my commissioners. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Commissioner Taylor. Any questions? Seeing none, thanks for joining us as well. Mr. Swank, if you could put the other plan up. We'll wait for that screen share to start. Oh, Clerk Irvin, you're going to take this one on too, huh? Trying to present both sides. All right. Welcome.
Unless somebody else wants to, Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to do it.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, same story as the previous, working with 6 of 7 county clerks in the region, excluded Campbell County by their request. This submission centered around the premise of not keeping Weston whole. And so this really is more of a status quo than anything. House District 1 would follow the same southern boundary. The difference would be it would go into Campbell County for 540 voters. I would like to note you don't have to do that. Those 540 aren't required to get deviation. As a matter of fact, takes them to a positive deviation. I did that just to respect the municipal boundaries of the city of Gillette. So that's why I did that one. Again, viewing it through an election administration lens, but that change could easily be made if that was the direction of the committee. House District 2 follows a similar path. It has some variation within Goshen County just to clean up some of their election concerns. House District 3 follows almost the exact outline with the exception of going to the Platte County line. And I apologize, Speaker Barlow, that district would no longer have Lost Springs in it. It would actually go to Platte County. And so, Mr. Chairman, this plan that's on the screen, really the focus was just centering around the premise that Weston would not stay whole, because as I explained previously, I think that's really on the east coast of Wyoming. That's one of the big questions we have is the eastern seaboard, if you rather. For the east coast of Wyoming, I think that's really the question that drives what you do in Campbell, Converse, Goshen, and Platte. And so I think that is where we need some clarification here today. So, Mr. Chairman, unless anybody has any questions, that's our fifth submission.
All right, Senator Boner, go ahead.
Okay, well, once again, just want to thank Mr. Irvin and all of his fellow clerks that put a lot of work into presenting these three options so the committee can make an informed decision as to the general direction we want to take. And I would describe this plan as, I guess, kind of a compromise between the previous two positions that we've heard. Certainly, everybody feels strongly that their county needs to remain whole. We hear that ad nauseum, but of course, then the hard reality hits it. This is a statewide process. And so what this plan effectively does is it kind of peels back one layer of that onion and asks why the counties want to remain whole? It's to guarantee a certain level of representation. And so what we try to do here is we sort of split the difference here, where if you want to look at it from the perspective of House District number 1, we don't say get the entirety of what you need, Kirk County, to remain whole from either Weston or Campbell. Rather, we get a little bit of both. That's the nature of the compromise that I would point out still leaves both Weston and Campbell County in a very good position to retain to achieve the desired level of representation. And so if you look at the actual numbers in this scenario, Weston County would have a little less than 4,600 people in House District number 2 compared to 2,467 from Niobrara and 2,598 from Goshen. And of course, those numbers can be adjusted. So still a clear majority in House District number 2 from Weston County, and up until recently, until Representative Hunt resigned, and just have to point out that they have had a representative up to the point where that representative resigned to take a job somewhere else. Same idea goes for Campbell County. We basically retain the relationship between Campbell and Converse County. It's a roughly 2-to-1 ratio, and was now House District number 3. Clearly a overwhelming majority for Campbell County, which all but guarantees them their 5th representative. And just having been watching some of those elections firsthand, sometimes you do have somebody from Campbell County versus someone from Converse County, and it's frankly not even all that close. The individual from Campbell County seems to pull ahead, at least in the one instance that we did have that dynamic during the one of our elections. So just to point out, this is the moderate. If there's 2 counties that can't agree, then because the committee has a decision, either we're going to pick a winner or a loser, or we're going to what I would advocate for this third option is pick an option where there's a compromise if those 2 parties can't come to a compromise on their own. So as this is very close, as Clerk Irvin said, to a status quo, very close in fact, with some improvements. I know I could go back to my constituents and talk about how Douglas is only split 2 ways instead of 3. I know Goshen County is excited about being split only 2 ways, and like I said, maintains a lot of the status quo that it has had 1 representative from Weston County for the vast majority of the past decade, and 5 representatives from Campbell County. So strong advocate for this more moderate compromise, and I hope that this can be the direction that the committee would take. At this point, I could cede the microphone for any questions, and certainly if Representative Claus and Representative Duncan have something to say, they can add on as well.
Well, let me ask you a question real fast, Senator Boner, because even though it's not stated on this submission, I'm just expecting that you would like the Senate nestings to remain kind of similar to how they are now, which would, if you put the Goshen nestings together, you probably, and it's not likely to get a Weston County state senator and maybe possible to certainly get a Weston County representative. Instead of a nesting of like Southern Goshen and Platte together, and then having a larger district like we did in the 2000s that went all the way from Crook, down to Goshen County. Is there any conversation in putting this together and what the nestings might look like?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the assumption would be that they remain the same. And certainly, as somebody who first started voting when, Douglas was in with, Devil's Tower, I'd strongly advocate for keeping those Senate districts as compact as possible. And that's been the state desire from other senators in the region, that they'd rather just maintain the status quo.
Thanks. Before we,
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Scott, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, and I'm having trouble visualizing what's going on, not having the materials. But I have a very simple question on this plan. Are all the districts within the plus or minus 5% deviation, population deviation?
Yes, Senator Scott, they are. House District 2 would be at negative 4.6, and the largest would be, it looks like House District 10 in Laramie County would still be at 4.2, and District 7 would be at 4.63. So yes, all were within the 5% deviation.
Okay, how does the Laramie County district get involved?
Mr. Chairman.
That's separate from these regions, is it not?
It is, Senator Scott. I think on the map that was provided, as I was looking at all the numbers, this continues to say that Laramie County is independent, is separate and self-contained with 11, which does force most of those seats to be above deviation by 2 to 3%. And Mr. Swank can further comment.
Mr. Chairman, this is actually a typo. This should actually be House District 31. This map was provided in District Builder, and I thought I had corrected all the numbering, but this should be House District 31 in Campbell County, sorry.
So let me correct that, Senator Scott. The largest district is 4.2% above deviation. It's an inner city Campbell County district, and the lowest is still District 2 at negative 4.67.
Okay, so what's going on is amongst other things, we're trying to keep the Gillette urban area together in some districts.
I don't want to speak
Is that right?
for the clerk, but I'll let Mr. Irvin speak for that.
Mr. Chairman, that's correct, Senator Scott. When working on this plan, just tried to keep respect for the municipal boundaries of the city of Gillette.
Okay. And Mr. Chairman, and that makes considerable sense from what I've heard. If nothing else, it makes it easier for people to understand the districts.
True. Senator Boner, before I get to Speaker Barlow, go ahead.
Yeah, just briefly, Mr. Chairman, since I forgot to mention it clearly, we'd refer to any tweaks that any local clerks or legislators would have if this is the direction the committee takes, both in Campbell and Weston County. And frankly, I'm probably going to go back to some of my constituents in Converse County to see if we need to make some tweaks. So what we're looking for is a general direction. We got a very good map that is within tolerance, but certainly, we're probably going to have some tweaks as we move along.
Because Senator Boner, this does divide the city of Douglas into 3, or at least 2, and then right south of Douglas. Well, no, this map, as I look at it, would still have, so your high school is in the Platte County District in Douglas?
No, Mr. Chairman, this keeps the city of Douglas split 2 ways. And it keeps House District 4, which is the Platte County House District, completely within the area around rural Douglas. So, like I said, once we get that level of detail, we might have some adjustments, but that was the concept that we want to keep Douglas split only 2 ways, but also, make one less, municipal government that whoever it is from Platte County that's representing that portion of Commerce County would have to worry about.
Okay. Representative Barlow, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I do appreciate the work that's been done. I'd make 2 comments. One is, it seems unnecessary to take 500 some people out of Campbell County when you already have the other manipulations that are going on further south. So we're breaching a county line for 500 people when that can be done elsewhere into a county that, as several of my colleagues from Campbell County have said, can justify 5 seats of its own, notwithstanding that they're at negative 2.2. Now, if Campbell County stays whole and you want to go to the 9836, which is the 2-region average, the 2-region ideal or average, then Campbell County can stay whole. And all we have to do is reach into Converse County for 2,100 or so people, and then we will participate, and there will only be 2, and and it would be exactly the same relationship we have now. 4 districts in Campbell, a shared 5th one with Converse, and then you make some adjustments in other places. So I would just say that the area that we look at on this map, that's northern Campbell County, is a large part of the county, and they're voting their precincts, and the clerk Malcolm from Platte County is correct. Until we get direction from the committee about whether Campbell is staying whole, and I would prefer that to I would prefer Campbell stay whole, not be sharing in this kind of I don't want to split both, divide into Campbell out of Crook and into Weston out of Crook. That doesn't make sense to me personally. So I would say that, and then if we're going to share into Campbell, then we'll draw our own lines, and then we'll partner with Converse to do that. So that would be my thought, because our clerk is waiting for that final direction so they can work with our community instead of having a bunch of misunderstandings along the way. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Committee questions, Representative Barlow. Representative Clausen, go ahead. Representative Clausen, did you have your hand up?
Can you hear me now, Mr. Chairman?
Yep, that was good.
Speaker Barlow, there are options that could go with the original Region 7 split. In those conversations, do you think there's still some sort of willingness to look at those other options that, quite frankly, don't dilute the Campbell County vote hardly at all, and kind of bring some of this stuff to a reasonable resolution?
Representative Barlow, thoughts?
Mr. Chairman, I didn't hear the very first part of Representative Clausen's question, so I apologize. If it could be restated, Mr. Chairman.
One more time, Rep. Clausen.
Sure. Speaker Barlow, so there are several other options besides just this option, and one of them being, or several options within the Region 6 being basically in with itself. Do you think that there's still some wiggle room, if you will, for some of those were reasonable options to be at least looked at by the parties?
Mr. Chairman, so I don't know what more reasonable options there are. I guess I would have hoped they're presented if there are reasonable options. I would say that if Region 6, just from the baseline, from the very first day, was at 5.8% over. So if we're going to try to keep Weston County whole or Campbell County whole, 5.8 still means that we have to go outside of the county. And while there was a discussion in the very beginning about 477, that only gets us to 5%. Doesn't get us below 5%. And if the basin's going to be at negative 6.12 or whatever it is, we're still at 11-point deviation. So to my colleague's point earlier, I think Campbell County can stay whole. And if you want us to add some more population to get to the 9836 because of the Goshen County factor, then I would like to add it out of one county, but I don't want to rob it from the top end and add it to the bottom end. That's what I would like to try to avoid. If there are other reasonable options, I guess, Mr. Chairman, I guess you give us another couple of weeks and we sit down some more.
Okay. Further questions, comments, discussion on the northeast part of the state? Would anyone on the committee like to take a stab at a motion? Speaker
Mr.
Barlow
Chairman?
again? Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, would you just pull up the Campbell County submission, please?
Of just the county, of just the Campbell County submission only?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
It should be there.
Okay, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, this was my colleagues, Representative Fortner, Representative Senator McEwen earlier referred to a meeting that was held in Gillette. That was held, I guess, last week. And there's been numerous meetings in Campbell County. And this has to do with Campbell County staying whole, i.e. no sharing. And how would the community like the districts drawn? And so in the original submission that came from Campbell County, they were kind of city ward centric. The urban districts, if you could use that term, urban districts were city ward centric. These districts are basically historic, last 10-year historic, meaning as little change to the districts that currently exist to the new districts. So if we're going to share, so that's why the clerk has been reticent to make a bunch of different maps and shift this around as other counties either go into Campbell County or we go out of the county, because this was it was a conversation that was had within the community with Campbell County staying whole. This is how, at least where we are right now, about how the districts could look. If the committee goes another direction with a share, if the committee goes with Weston County being divided as it currently, similar to what it currently is, I would ask that Campbell County stay whole. And if you want us to take more population, that we do it the same way we are with Converse County now, or in a similar manner. If the committee's direction is that Weston County stays whole, Crook comes into Campbell, then we're going to need some time as a community to take a look at the map and make those adjustments within our community. And the third thing I just say on that one is, if you do that, Campbell County would like to stay at 9614 for those internal districts. And what that does is that keeps Converse County all within its own border for its district. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, committee, everyone has I think I followed most of that, Representative Barlow, but I may need that in an email to the committee, that last portion of how that would work. But I think I fundamentally understand where you're going with that. Other comments or motions, Representative Yen or Senator Driscoll? When there's two of you, I'm not sure which one of you has a hand up, but go ahead.
Yeah, that was me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think, can we look at submission 4 again?
Coming up now.
So I think this is my preference overall, where it's a Weston Niobrara, right? So it does keep Weston whole and not split down the middle. But I do like Speaker Barlow's suggestion. I just need to see what it looks like in a map. If the assumption is that we have another meeting, I'd like to assign the task to Speaker Barlow to get a base map drawn that has Crook have a district where it shares a minority position with Campbell, and then Campbell goes into Converse, and then have him bring his base map around to the other counties to make sure that the borders that go into other counties are amenable to those counties, and then bring us back a map. That would be my motion. And if he could restate his suggestion, I think that would help for clarity on what his intention was.
Sure. So before I ask for a second, Rep. Barlow, if you'd go through some of those dynamics one more time, and then we'll see if we get a second on that motion.
So, Mr. Chairman, I think that the dynamic, the principle, the first point is Weston stays whole, shares with Niobrara. I think that's what I understood from Representative Yin, which I don't mind taking direction from Representative Yin, but I'll take it from the committee as well. And then that would leave Crook sharing into Campbell doing its numbers within itself, and I would like the internal Campbell County numbers to be at 9614, the statewide ideal. And then that'll leave us whatever number we have to work with Converse and we'll just tell Converse, hey, you can have, this is how many we have. They can do with what they will with those, and build it up to the whatever deviation they want. Is that accurate, Mr. Chairman and Representative Yin?
Let me make sure I understand. So that's 4 districts, House districts in Campbell County at the average, and whatever it takes to make Crook hit deviation, and then the excess, I shouldn't say excess because we're talking about, constituents here, but the remaining that's outside of those 4 9614s and the 0.3, so roughly 3,000 people that Crook needs, you would be willing to share with Converse. That's the thought process, Speaker Barlow?
Mr. Chairman, I think that's accurate. What I would say is that because Campbell County being whole would be at -2.2, and I am very comfortable with ideal representation on a statewide level, I think that us having a plan that brings us up, the internal districts of Campbell County to 9614. If you want me to pull a few more people and push them toward and go to the 9836 and pair that with Crook County, we can do that, and we can do the same thing, and then Converse County can do the same thing to us, because what we're still doing is we're trying to pull numbers out of Goshen County so that they do not have to share to the south. And that's the bottom line, is we're all trying to assist that end of, or at least my view is Goshen County, to get enough folks so that, but I represent a little bit of Converse County, maybe not very well. Quality of representation is different than equity of representation, correct? But I want Converse County to draw their lines within their community. We'll do ours. We'll take a shot at it and then present it to the committee. We'll probably also take a shot, just so you're clear, Mr. Chairman, at the other way. Campbell County stays whole and we draw the 238 or go to 936 just out of one county, and I would say that's Converse County. So I'd ask actually for a motion for both suggestions. That obviously, Mr. Chairman, that obviously divides Weston County.
So that's still the motion, Representative Yen. Let me see if there's a second for your motion. Representative Roscoe has seconded your motion. So we'll go to discussion. Senator Boner, discussion on this motion.
Yeah, sure, Mr. Chairman. Well, first of all, I need a basic understanding of what that does to Platte County. My concern here is it's just sort of a, we don't have a thorough understanding of all the consequences of this. Sure, maybe it resolves the differences between Campbell and Weston, but frankly, it doesn't really consider how it deals with the rest of the east side of the state. So I need some understanding of how this would affect Platte and Goshen. We've looked at these numbers several different ways. I'm not sure if there's an easy way to do that. That's going to be acceptable to either of those counties. So just a little bit more information as to what exactly we're doing here. So in general and specifically, I want to hear from Representative Barlow if he wants to maintain roughly that 2-to-1 ratio in his House district, 2 Campbell County residents to 1 Commerce County resident. I do become concerned if we go much beyond that all of a sudden, that's a very long drive. And I think we have been very well represented by Representative Barlow. But, if you only have 2,000 folks down in Commerce County and you're from Gillette, that drive becomes a little bit more of a challenge. Maybe, whoever replaces Representative Barlow may not be as diligent in getting down here. So I do have concerns about that plan. First of all, I don't understand all of its effects. Second of all, I'm specifically concerned about how that deals with our representation in Commerce County.
And so Representative Barlow, if you crunch that a little bit better, we'll call on Representative Duncan to jump in.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm confused because if we're going to split, the whole purpose of this map was to not split Weston. So the comment about splitting Weston, why are we using this map? So if we're going to split Weston, we should just use the other map. So I'm confused now.
And Representative Yin, I thought your motion started with keep Weston whole. And I'm getting a head nod. So Representative Barlow?
Mr. Chairman, I interjected that so I probably confused it. The motion did not include that Campbell County whole. It was Campbell County share with Converse, or excuse me, with Crook, and then subsequent with Converse. So my apologies, Mr. Chairman, if I confused that. I wanted to interject it that, anyway, my apologies.
And so Representative Yin, the motion is not necessarily to adopt that map. It's to have a map drawn, kind of spearheaded by Representative Barlow to see if there's a yet again better option that we all might be agreeable to. Is that where I'm taking your motion? I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'm just trying to figure out where we're going here.
Mr. Chairman, yes, that is my motion to give the speaker some work. And I think if his idea is implementable and doesn't split any of the counties where each county still gets a representative, which I think when he originally explained it, he had mentioned that, right? So if Platte County still is able to get a majority representative, I think that while provides a compromise position to keeping Weston whole with Campbell County and still ensures that all the other counties get a district.
You gotta go.
And stay.
Senator, okay, Senator Boner, jump in.
Well, Mr. Chairman, that sounds almost too good to be true. We've run these numbers over and over and over again. So if there's some magic solution that's out there, we need to hear it right now. We need to be specific. We're past the point of kicking the can down the road. We're past that point. Like I said, if there's a magic solution that we missed it, we need some specifics. But I would be opposed to this option for all the reasons I previously stated. It splits Goshen County 3 ways. There's significant opposition from Goshen County to that happening. It splits Platte County 2 ways. It splits up Commerce County potentially in a way that it makes it hard for us to have a senator, even though we have almost 14,000 people and growing. If there's a magic solution, let us know. You have to be specific. I don't like the notion that we're just going to kick the can down the road unless there's an actual specific plan that works for the southern part of this nine county regions. We need to. I think we need to vote this proposal down.
Representative Duncan, then there's a Clausen, then we'll go to Yin. So Representative Clausen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I appreciate the effort. However, our region I personally have had 5 different meetings throughout the community and presented all kinds of different options. The community has created several maps, and then our region as well. And the clerk these are actually 2 for Goshen County. These are actual clerk maps that have been submitted. Plus she's submitted several other maps. All of our clerks and Malcolm has created multiple maps. We as a region for 7 have created multiple maps and have had multiple meetings. So we've done a lot of work and have created every different option possible. We're down to December 14th, and we have these 2 maps to try and work out with Region 6. I think we need to pick one or the other and then tweak whatever needs to happen with Campbell County, and move forward. Just like we did our last meeting, we had to adopt one statewide map, whether it was perfect or not, and move forward. I think that's what needs to happen here. And we can't let perfect be the enemy of good. So we need to pick one and move forward and make a decision. We cannot keep, as Senator Boner said, keep kicking the can down the road. We have to pick one and move forward.
Representative Clausen, jump on in.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So I'd like to speak against this motion and in favor of the other map, as I think it's a more reasonable starting point for this conversation.
Okay, any other testimony before we take a motion? Speaker Barlow, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just so folks, I know we're probably all aware of this. Campbell County is 48% of the population of this 7-county area. Half of the district, half of the region. or half of the bi-regional total, 48%. The five House seats that we could have, that would be at -2.2. I get that. That means that the rest of the district, the rest of the region, if Campbell County stays out, is going to be over deviation. I recognize that. So if you want Campbell County to go to the 9836, which is the 2-region average, that means that people in Campbell County that justifiably are interested in having 5 seats within themselves, within the county itself, are going to go from -2.2 to +2.3, 4.5 points, 4.5 points of deviation in their ideal representation. So if you let's just round it to 5 points over 5 seats, that's 2,500 people approximately. It's a little less than that because I rounded up on the 4.5. So I think that is the fundamental question. I mean, Weston County is a fundamental question, no doubt. But the fundamental question for the entire district is, you're going to go, do you want to be at ideal, or do you want to be at 2% plus over ideal? And for a county like Campbell, that's going to have a 4.5 point swing from its desired position of staying whole to a, whatever this grand bargain thing is, as now we're going up to 4.5 points. That is not a winning position for us. We'll go part way. We'll take part of the change, but to go all the way, for my county, and I'm not going to speak for the other representatives on the call, but from Campbell County, but they don't want to go to anything outside of Campbell County. I think we can have that conversation, and we can have it whether we have either plan, right? The Weston stays whole or the Campbell stays whole. We can have that conversation. But that's the fundamental question for me, is equitable representation and the amount of swing that happens to Campbell County with this. We can't do anything else with Goshen but go north. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Yin or Senator Driscoll, you're next, and we'll go to Senator Boner.
Okay. So, Mr. Chairman, so maybe, I guess this could be a question for Senator Boner. Would the numbers work out if, instead of taking from Douglas in Platte County, if Platte County took from Laramie County? Because that would also relieve the tension from the population difference between the north end and Laramie County. And it also doesn't intrude into Goshen going south, right? So if Platte just takes 1,000 or 2,000 from Laramie County, would that work?
Senator Boner, thoughts?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, that's something we did look at. How far south from Platte County do you go in Laramie County to get, say, 800 people? That answers about exit 22 on I-25. Of course, that would have worked under the Scott plan when Laramie County was over deviation. Now that does not work when they're struggling under the Zwanzer plan to get to the minimums with 11 House districts. So we'd have to make some changes in Laramie County that would contradict the stated goals of the Laramie County delegation, at least as I understand them. So yes, that's a possibility, but not right now with the Zwanzer plan being what it is. And so that's the answer to that question. And just to be clear, my strongest opposition to the motion, as I understand it, is this notion that we're just going to try and just basically figure the rest of it out, and we don't really have to have a notion as to how that works. If the motion, and I might need some clarification from Representative Yen, is to go with this Weston County whole plan as is, as a starting point, we can make adjustments. I think that would be something that I may not vote for it, but I can live with it if that makes sense. What I was objecting to is this notion that we're just going to basically start over and there's going to be a magic solution, where I can almost promise you that there isn't. So this is a plan that we found that works after close coordination with our clerks. That works is the least bad option, I guess, if you're going to take this route for us a little bit further south. So I guess I need clarification on what the motion exactly was. It needs to be very precise. I don't like the open-endedness of it. That's my primary objection. And also, like I said before, I think it's important how you do the Senate districts. That's very important for us, in Converse and Goshen counties. And so I might have an amendment, if that's in order, Mr. Chairman, to provide some direction, at least on 3 of the 5 Senate seats within this plan.
And so
Mr. Chairman.
Ian, as you're about to testify, is your thought to have a third alternative developed and then take one of the 3, have the other 2 alternatives submitted today, and then kind of refine all 3 of them, the current 2 plus a third option, and then ultimately have the committee vote, upsetting at least 1/3 of the committee on whichever way we go? I don't want
Mr.
to
Chairman,
again.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. My intent was just for Speaker Barlow to bring us back a map. My thought, so I guess I was under the impression that we were going to have another meeting in person. If we aren't going to have another meeting in person or 2, then we should make a decision now. But I think both chairs have indicated that they would like to see another meeting. And if we are going to have that, I think a better compromise position is what I'd like to see. And the motion isn't for us to adopt anything right now. It's all it was to assign Speaker Barlow some work to do. And that's it.
And I will look to my co-chair to make sure we're on the same page. But I do believe we'll have certainly one more meeting to make some final decisions. And then we're going to need a subsequent meeting to allow all of the county clerks to go through and fine tune before we have a plan that I think this committee will feel comfortable saying there are limited split precincts, and we've researched. And so that's at least 2 more meetings. One of them might be, somewhat of a finality, just to sign off on the clerk saying that we haven't done anything abhorrent. But it might be 3 meetings, but certainly probably 2 forthcoming, if not a third, depending on plans. Speaker
Mr.
Ball.
Co-Chairman, I'm in complete agreement with you on that. And I think it's a further point, we're definitely having another meeting, and to have 1 or 2 plans, if we go with Representative Yin's motion, and even if they come with another plan from down there, we can make a final decision with final maps at that meeting, because we don't know exactly. And I will tell you from my standpoint, when Region 7 did their planning meeting, I was excluded from the meeting. It was pretty hard to have the input on this map because I asked for a Zoom invite and got told that it was a Region 7 without us. So there could have been some input there, but there wasn't, because I wasn't at the meeting. I was at home, but was not invited. So I think clearly we can have 2 complete plans laying here at the next meeting. We're going to have the push vote at the end. It doesn't matter how we do it. There's going to be a hard vote. The more information we have and the more complete the 2 plans are to look at, the better chance we have to make a decision that has the best impact for the state of Wyoming and the least impact on our people in these 2 regions.
Representative Barlow.
Mr. Chairman, so I want to be clear. I think that Senator Boner's position is reflected in is reflective of the motion. The motion is, well, maybe the motion was for me to go do it, but really this is a collective effort. This is a collective effort. This is our clerks. Malcolm has taken a lot of the lead in that. Our Campbell County clerk, if we know this is the direction the committee wants us to go forth with, i.e. Weston County stays whole, then our Campbell County delegation, while they may not like it, we will put our shoulders to the grindstone, and we will come up with at least an internal Campbell County map, and then talk with our neighbors to the south, Converse County, and make sure we're on the same page about how we continue to that relationship. So I'm not going to come up with a map, despite what the motion was. I'm not going to come up with a map. What we need is a direction from the committee. If Weston and Niobrara are going together, and you need some portion of Goshen, that's what we will work together as both in both regions, all of us together, Senator Boner and all of us. We'll work that. We'll put forth an option that at least the committee, can consider. And if the committee wants to go a different direction, I guess all that work was maybe not lost, but Yeah, so I'm fine with the compilation of what Senator Boner said and what the motion was, Representative Yen. We'll go do the work based on the premise that Weston, Niobrara, and part of Goshen become are a district. That's what I would say. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. And I guess I'd feel differently if I heard there was a collective agreement from everyone involved, but from people I've talked to in 4 or 5 counties, either they felt excluded or were included, or Campbell separated themselves and didn't want to be part. And so, I mean, we can choose between one of the 2 presented today, but I guess I don't think we have to. If there is some kind of kick the can down the road and hope for some magic bullet that Senator Boner alluded to, I have difficulties believing there is one as well. But if we're having another meeting, I guess I'm all for the good old fashioned American try. Senator Boner, thoughts?
Okay, Mr. Chairman.
Or Senator Scott, do you want to go ahead since you're on the phone?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, and I'm confused on the motion as to what it does with Crook County and Weston County. Does it have a district that overlaps that boundary? What does it do with Crook County? Does it put it in with Campbell or does it put it in with Weston? How does it handle it?
Representative Yen, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, so the parameters would be for Speaker Barlow to work with all the regions to come up with a map that keeps Weston and Niobrara as a district. So Weston is whole and Niobrara is in that district. And then that means as a result of that, Crook goes into Campbell County. And then Speaker Barlow works with the Senate and the House and the other counties to resolve what that looks like for the rest of the region.
Okay, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Scott.
As I work the numbers out, if you do it that way, you're going to wind up with the district in that's going to be where Congress and Campbell overlap. You're going to wind up with a House district that is half in one county and half in the other, or very close to that. And if that happens, I would think that was going to be a very difficult district to represent. But I think that's my observation, because I just couldn't figure out how you were going to be able to work both things and keep Crook and Weston separate.
I think when I looked at the map, if you put Weston and Niobrara together, and then you put Crook into northern Campbell, you basically have 4.5 House seats in Campbell County at that point. And so you could, because you have roughly 1.5 House seats in Converse County, take 4 seats in Campbell, 1 seat in Converse, and do what I would like to think is a fairly equitable 50-50 split from southern Campbell and northern.
Okay. Your numerical analysis is the same as mine then, and I'm just warning you, I think that's an impossible district to represent, one that is half in each of those 2 counties, or a very difficult one. And it certainly doesn't keep Campbell very whole.
I completely agree. It would be kind of Glen Rock and with Wright, most likely, if you want to keep Douglas whole or divide Douglas again. But at least it's a 50-50. And whatever Speaker Barlow and committee wants to, if they can find agreement, more power to them. Speaker Barlow, you want back in again? Or I'm trying to keep everybody in line with the questions. So Speaker Barlow, and then I'll go back to Senator Boner.
So, Mr. Chairman, this is where the regional versus the statewide ideal is critical. So I agree with you. If you use the bi-regional average of 98-36, we do come with a district that is 50-50 or something like that. If you go lower, to the statewide average with the Campbell County districts, that runs Campbell County up percentage-wise, and that brings Converse County back into itself for its own representation, one whole district. I'm not saying the numbers are perfect, but it just depends on which ideal number you use for which parts of the region. if this motion fails, it looks like you're left with Campbell County staying whole. And, Campbell County wins both ways. I mean, Campbell County wins more staying whole, probably. So.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Scott, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I wasn't looking at it from the point of view of ideal. I was looking at from the point of view of to avoid going over the 5% deviation. You were going to have a district that was half each way.
True. All right, Senator Boner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just still need some more clarity on what exactly this motion is. I'm still, are we going with the submittal from the Weston County Clerk, or are we just basically starting over for the third time, saying we're just going to care about keeping Weston and Niobrara whole, and we're just going to come back with a completely different map? I need clarity, and a simple answer would be appreciated.
So I'll try it and argue with me if I'm wrong, Representative Yin. The simple map plan was Weston and Niobrara together. Crook goes into Campbell. Campbell draws a deviation for House districts at the statewide average. And then the push goes into Converse to figure out how to draw with the remaining constituency in Campbell County, which would then affect what Platte and Goshen look like. I think is as simple as I can state it. Is that correct, Representative Yin?
Yeah, and so, I think if Senator Boner wants to try to have this motion just be, I would say the intent of the motion is, do we want Weston Niobrara, do we want to keep Weston whole? That's the intent of the motion, and then make changes that everyone is agreeable to with keeping Weston whole. If that is not the will of the committee, right? If the will of the committee is to split Weston, then we take one of the other maps that were submitted. Because right now, I don't think that I think no matter what, as long as we have another meeting, people are going to come back and want to adjust the borders if we accept the Weston County submission as it is right now, which we could do. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I think we would still, if we have another meeting, we're still going to see changes to that map, right? Because even the county clerk said they didn't touch the Campbell County borders, or they made some guess at what they want the Campbell County borders to look like. And that still necessitates a different map coming back to us at the next meeting.
Rep. Duncan, you want in next?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think Senator Boner, it's drawing a new map. That's what the motion is.
And maybe Representative Yin, I had them pull up this map on the screen. What is different about your motion specifically, or as specific as you can get, than this map currently up?
I think the intent of Speaker Barlow is that he wanted to modify the interaction with the districts that go into Converse and the district that goes into Crook to push his closer to ideal, which means Platte could possibly have a whole district again. Because right now Platte is split three ways, right? Or sorry, Goshen is split three ways and Platte is significantly gone into and has to go into Goshen.
So taking about 500 more from what's currently in Spotted Horse and Recluse on this map that they don't need in House District 1, putting that under deviation, which then allows greater flexibility of at least 500 to maybe 800 down the map, potentially allowing the Glendale area
to possibly go back to Platte.
Okay. Representative Clausen.
Mr. Chairman, once again, I think the other map, and maybe if we pull it up, I'm speaking against the motion. I think the other map's a better starting point. It really kind of brings the crux of this together, and basically it gives more room for positions.
Further discussion on the motion. Senator Boner.
I'm just calling against the motion, Mr. Chairman. Done a lot of work, and frankly, just to have this being thrown out is, I think that takes us backwards. We need to have, if we're going to have those more refined discussions, we have to, pick a direction here, and that includes the entire region, not just Weston or Campbell County. So on and against the motion. If somebody wants to bring back a motion for the map that we've made that takes into account all the counties in the region, we could certainly have that discussion, but on and against this one.
And the Goshen County Clerk did jump into the room. Ms. Kenyon, anything you'd like to comment on the motion or on either map? Ms. Kenyon, if you can hear us, there you go.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Cindy Kenyon, Goshen County Clerk here. And one thing that I would say is Goshen County has to shed X amount of people. And if we do not, then we will be over deviation in the House seat in the southern section, which on the map everyone's looking at is called the diagonal plan. And I am not sure what would happen to us. We need to shed X amount of people. And we have provided a 3-way split and a 2-way split map, but with what's being proposed, I'm not sure that we can create a map like that and stay within our region. So I would like to hear how this affects Goshen County, and if everyone doesn't know what this motion's gonna do ahead of time, then I'd ask that you not pass this and that you pass something that we already know works within the area and allow just Converse and Campbell and Crook redraw their lines, but make sure that you use existing maps from Goshen County, because we have to shed a certain amount of population. If we can't, we have 12,498 people, and I'm not sure what the goal is here, but I think it would be to our advantage to know what this motion's going to do this late in the game. I think it's not as well planned as it could be.
I think that's very fair, because what happens in Campbell will ricochet down into Converse, which affects Platte. And it's pretty tough to say what effect it would have on Goshen 3 counties later from the motion at hand. I think that's very fair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate your time, and if anyone has questions for me, I'd happily answer.
Don't go too far. I'm not seeing any hands up, but I know Commissioner Wade wants to echo in, and so we'll ask him to provide comments, and then we'll see if anybody has questions for any of the clerks or commissioners. Go ahead, Mr. Wade.
Go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, as we keep listening to this discussion, it's beginning to sound like it's a given that we're going to get thrown in with Weston County. And I'll point out again, that gives Weston County 69% of the population. And so that puts the rest of us at a really large disadvantage. And it's beginning to appear that Niobrara County is being played as a pawn here, to try to make everyone else's wishes work. And so I know our county clerks in this region 7 have done a huge amount of work. And so as a commissioner, I think we need to respect what they say. They've done a good job of putting this together, and my county clerk is sitting right here with me, and I think she has some things she would like to add too.
Hi, Becky. Anything you want to add?
Yes, good afternoon, Chairman and members of the committee. I'm sitting here trying to understand what we're doing when we have all invested so many hours. We have come up with maps that work, and our focus is on one county being whole, and that creates a trickle down effect on everybody else. And I just don't understand the reasoning behind it. If somebody was promised they would remain whole, well, you know, sometimes promises are broken, unfortunately. And I just feel that, as Chairman Wade said, whereupon it's assumed that we don't have a voice, that we're going to be paired with another county, and our comments and our thoughts and opinions don't matter. And I'm, you know, I just don't think it's fair. It's not equitable. I understand our population is small, but like I said earlier, we have produced plans that work, that do, you know, that other counties have developed. They know their districts, they know their splits, they've made it work. And it sounds like we're throwing everything out right now, and I just am befuddled.
Well, the good news is I have yet to see a single plan that divides Niobrara in any map. But I do, I mean, you're right. I mean, what county do you feel like you're most related to? I understand originally you were in Region 6 and maps were drawn, and I certainly appreciate that.
Region 7, Mr. Chairman.
7, my apologies. And so, you know, Commissioner Ms. Freeman, you know, if in your perfect world, which county would you partner with? Is it not Weston? Is it more Niobrara, or is it more Converse or Goshen, or?
Well, we submitted a Plan 3 that has the Goshen with the diagonal split, and it goes up into Weston, and that it's I'm not asking for a perfect world, and I'm somewhat offended by that. What we're wanting is equitable treatment. We've submitted plans. I just don't understand this. And, you know, wouldn't it be better to have a 2-to-1 count instead of a 3-to-1 where we basically don't have a voice?
And Mr. Chairman, I would say, as far as who we fit best with, I think we can work with any of our neighbors. That's not the problem. We know we're going to be in with someone. It becomes a concern to us when we are at such a disadvantage.
Okay, I appreciate that, Commissioner Wade. And always nice to hear from you, Representative, or Ms. Freeman. Sorry you're not here in person. Any questions for Niobrara Commissioner or Clerk from anyone? Not seeing any. All right, committee motion still on the table from Representative
Question?
Representative Duncan.
Question.
Question being called, if I could get that map taken down, Mr. Swank, so I could see hands. All right, so the motion is to have another option presented that would be at least spearheaded by Representative Barlow and with input from everyone in the region along the line stated 4 or 5 times. Everyone in favor of such a motion, please raise your hand. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, all those opposed to that motion, raise your hand. Get a 6. Okay, opposed to the motion, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Scott, no.
6. So 6 on that motion does not make it. All right, next motion, if any, on either of the 2 maps presented or any other ideas. Representative Duncan.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to move the diagonal map. And I would like to move that one forward. And then if there's any sort of manipulation that we need to do between now and our next meeting, we can do so.
Second.
Seconded by Clausen. Discussion on this map, committee.
Mr. Chairman.
Representative Duncan, go ahead.
Thank you. This is a good starting point. It's a pretty much a status quo of where we're at now. So if there's any sort of, Converse is operating fine where we're at. This is a huge improvement for Goshen County. And then this way, we just heard from Lusk. The only question now is Crook and Weston and Campbell. So they can work it out, and we can have hopefully a quick discussion or rework whatever lines we need to, and go from there. But this is a good basic working space. We're not kicking the can down the road, and we have a good starting point from where we need to go. And if there's no other discussion, I'd call the question.
Senator Boner, jump on in.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just to reiterate what I said, this does give Weston County a clear majority in one House district, and Campbell County a clear majority, well, 4 whole House districts, a clear majority in a 5th. So there's a very good likelihood that both Weston and Campbell County will achieve their objectives. And so in favor of this motion.
Speaker Barlow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I can't see the top of this map, so if Michael could either reduce the magnification or scroll up so we can see which. Okay, so Mr. Chairman, I think this is the 500 people out of Campbell County. So if this is what we're going to refine, Campbell County wants to refine our share out of the northern part of the county. And if we're gonna split Weston County, there's no sense in also splitting that same district into Campbell County. Thank you.
So as you're not on the committee, Speaker Barlow, I guess I'd ask if there's any amendments to the motion regarding Campbell County from the committee members.
Mr. Chairman,
Representative Duncan.
part of my motion was that we could go back and refine these lines
True.
before
Okay.
the next meeting.
But nothing specific regarding Campbell County at this time. Okay, further discussion on the current plan on the map before us, otherwise known as the divide Weston County in half plan. Representative Yin.
Mr. Chairman, so let's say we adopt this, but we don't give any direction other than you guys work it out in those 3 counties. I think we're going to end up with the same situation that we have now.
Senator Boner.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, but we've produced 2 complete maps in 2 weeks. We have Campbell County has produced another one. The idea that we're not going to produce anything is frankly insulting at this point. It's not true. We've produced many maps. We'll continue to do that. That's simply a false statement.
Anyone else comment on the motion? All right, Mr. Swank, if you take that map down so I can see everyone's hands again. All right, all in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. I got 6. All right.
Scott is 4.
That would be 7. That would be a majority of the members currently here. So we will proceed with, let me figure out what actually the name of that map is, Mr. Swank. I just want to make sure for the record I get this correct. It's the submission of submission 4.
Submission 5.
Submission 5. Okay. All right, committee. Representative Gray would like to talk about Natrona County. So I guess that's a nice place to move next. And then maybe we'll take a break after Representative Gray, unless there's anything else in Natrona County to come forward. Welcome, Representative Gray. Hi, floor is yours, Representative Gray.
Thank you, Chairman Zwanitzer. I had worked on a map with Representative Obermuller, and we did submit that for this meeting. I think we're continuing to work on that. Representative Obermuller, we're still talking about the concept of cleaning up the McKinley line and treating the downtown area as a separate community of interest, which is a topic that Representative Obermueller and I had talked about, and we wanted to draw a map with that in there. And we did initially run it by the clerk, and they had said there were no new splits created compared to the current map. And the main differences between House District 57 and 56, that's the only person changing from Plan C that was submitted earlier. So it's really between, it's those two districts. So continuing to work on that. And also, I think that if this is not the direction the committee wants to go, and I know there's one more meeting, so planning to kind of present a little more formally there, that I do think on Plan C, I know this is, again, the little bit in the nitty gritty, but reducing that churn, I think, is the same thing that I just heard in that discussion from Campbell County, reducing the amount of people that are changing current districts, and it keeps the splits the way they are. So I guess those that had supported Plan A over Plan C, I guess my question is, what is the reason for that? Because it keeps the number of splits the same. The county clerk said that they want unanimity on those lines, and that map does have unanimity unless 35 does not agree from the current delegation, in which case it's one less than the current delegation, which is the same as the Plan A that was submitted. So I know there's going to be one more meeting. I just wanted to hop on here for a minute and kind of update on some of the Natrona stuff. I was hoping that we could, because I know there's going to be one more fine-tuning meeting, talk a little more about it then.
Okay. Yeah, we will have at least one, if not two more meetings. And I think at that point we can focus more on Natrona County as well in person, unless anyone on the committee at this point wants to take it on. I know it's almost 5 o'clock. So and maybe next meeting in person, Representative Gray, certainly happy to have you come forward and we can kind of further examine the line choices regarding McKinley and that area of Mid Casper, if that works.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. And I know Senator Scott, now might be an appropriate time. I know you have an amendment to the statewide plan we're working off of that you had Mr. Swank develop. If you'd like to talk about that, I'd certainly give you the floor at this time.
Okay, and Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, we had a plan. It was basically the one the committee was working on at the last meeting, and what it does is assume that the change that was made at the last meeting simply doesn't work for the Senate. And frankly, I haven't seen, Mr. Chairman, the Senate version of what goes with the House plan that was developed last time. So I'm confused as to exactly how I'm going to be different from that, but I suspect I am, because you've got a problem with a half a senator in the western part of the state and a half a senator in the eastern part of the state. The basic plan is as was presented last time. We have cleaned up the problem of the difference in that put the plan out of deviation in the southwest corner. You've heard what we did with the Bighorn Basin to have that within deviation, and I think essentially we're probably going to adopt what the committee does on that as a final version. It would include as I understand, the plan we just adopted in the northeastern corner. But the big difference is that it would have the Laramie County as 10 representatives and 5 senators. That's a very quick summary in view of the time, and I intend to bring that as a private bill, if unless the committee should happen to adopt it. But that's what it does.
Questions from
That's
anyone?
it.
Okay. Representative Summers is online. Go ahead, Mr. Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
Yep, floor is yours.
Okay, I think I got everything working now. So, Mr. Chairman, thank you, and thanks committee for all your work. I know it's a struggle. So I appreciate the fact that Senator Scott kind of reached out to me, at least, on developing some of the west side of this plan, particularly since it would split Sublet, even though it's lightly splitting Sublet, but we do go into Teton County. I talked to my southern community last night. They still don't want to be split, don't want to see that chunk taken off. So, you know, I'm going to continue to support the current plan that's on the table that moves a rep from central Wyoming, southern central Wyoming to Laramie County. If the committee decides to make it go back to the 14 House districts, then I would like at least an opportunity between 2 meetings to come together on a plan. So if it's going to be the committee's decision that we're going to have 14 districts in, as we currently do, which is a population of 9,207, then I want to come back with a plan, and I want to present a plan that would also include that piece of Rock River that was in those 2 regions before. So currently, as it currently sits, Rock River sits in the big district, in the big House district that reaches through into Sweetwater. We've lost 5,000 people on that side down in the south end and in Sublette County. And it's really hard to stretch everything around to bring out the population, which is in Teton and North Lincoln. And so if the committee decides that they're going to go with 14 House districts in the regions 9 and 10, then I would like the opportunity to go back to communities, bring a plan out of those regions to present. So, Mr. Chairman, that's about all I'm going to say. I like the plan that keeps Sublet whole, that goes into the rest of our school district in LaBarge and picks up Farson. And if we're going to go the route of 14, I would like the opportunity to craft a different plan.
Questions for Representative Summers? Representative Burt, now would be a good time to jump on board. I didn't see Mr. Swank. Let's turn it over to LSO first.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to clarify this portion of the plan since it has not been discussed prior. If you recall, in the 14 district plan for the Region 9 and Region 10 area, 3 districts were out of deviation. House District 15 around Rawlins, House District 47, which is the large one between Carbon and Sweetwater County, and House District 18. The request for this map was to get everything within deviation. So the basic changes are adding the Muddy Gap voting precinct to the House District 15, which is in the top or northwestern portion of Carbon County. That brings that district within deviation. However, that reduces House District 47 further. So the remainders of the major changes was going into what it would be classified as North Lincoln County around Smoot, and taking about 130 people from there and about 95 people from Southern Sublet, and then kind of squeezing some of the other districts down to the minimum value within deviation so that all districts now meet the minimum value. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay. Now Representative Burt, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not going to rehash everything I did earlier. I do apologize for that. Listening to basically everybody's testimony, we've got equitable representation being left out of these map planning meetings, 3-hour plus drives, difference in representation for various communities. Basically, the current map, I guess we're calling it this monitor map, the one that's currently set up, basically fits all those tack marks. I'm actually in favor of Scott's, Senator Scott's map plan here for at least 9 and 10. I haven't really studied the going north and all that kind of stuff, but where I'm at in Region 9, I'd like to at least try to keep, where we're at. I don't think we're trying to represent a district the size of, a small state on the East Coast is going to, give both communities the fair representation that they actually truly need. So again, I'm not going to take too much more time, but I'm in favor of this proposed from Senator Scott, and I'm completely against the way that Sweetwater County has been divvied up over to Carbon County on the current map. So I'll stand for questions. Thanks.
Thank you. Questions for Representative Burt? Not seeing it this time. I know Senator Dockstetter and Senator Rothfuss jumped in. Senator Dockstetter, would like to jump into the conversation?
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I'm just trying to see just exactly, he's cut up into the lower end of our valley there, the southern end, and I can't see where he's drawn the line on that. I tried to pull it up on the handout materials and I can't tell.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so it appears that he has left Smoot intact with the valley. Okay, all right. I'd probably side with, I think I'd stay with the Sublet County approach at this time, but I would like to take a closer look at this. I'd ask the committee not pass this yet till we have a chance to discuss that further, and I have a chance to discuss it further with Senator Scott. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Rothfuss, you jumped on. Anything else to add?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Briefly, most of the maps I'm satisfied with. They leave Region 2 alone. I have concerns when we start talking about taking Rock River away because that does challenge our population. So if we go to that approach, then we'll struggle to maintain the interests of Region 2. Most of the solutions that are presented, though, I think respect the integrity of a unified Albany County, which we've presented before as being our primary interest. I do see some proposals that stagger the Senate districts in a way that I believe would be detrimental for the reasons that Senator Boner eloquently described earlier today, where the staggering of Senate districts ends up hurting the staggered county. So I won't reiterate that discussion, but I appreciate him bringing that up as a strong point against disaggregating those Senate districts. So I'll stop there for now based on the testimony that's been presented so far. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. Representative Summers.
There, let me try that. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
You can pull the map back out so we can see the whole area. The one thing I do want to say with respect to Representative Burt's comments about this plan is this plan, which you have to realize, actually makes House District 47 even larger than it is today. So the only reason it doesn't reach to the Lincoln County line is somebody chose not to do that. There's no population in that area, in that northwest area anyway. So really you have a House district that reaches from Albany County to Lincoln County. that doesn't make any sense to me. But if the committee decides to go down that road, and I'm just going to reiterate this, I think what the committee has to decide, are you going to have 14 House districts out of regions 9 and 10, or are you going to retain the current 13 that you have in the plan you adopted last time? And if you go to 14, then I think we need time to build another plan. And with all due respect to my good colleague, Senator Ralphus, right now, if you look at this plan, we have to scatter 9207 over 14 House districts. If we take out Rock River, I believe that Albany County only has to scatter 9206 over 4 districts. It's much easier to scatter 92.6 over 4 than it is 9207 over 14. And so there you see the challenge if you start compressing this, because there has been an incredible loss. But once again, your decisions are 13 versus 14. And then if you go 14, it's whether you include Rock River in 9 and 10 or not, to give 9 and 10 a little more buffer. So I think those are the decisions. And then we just need time to work it out, if that's depending upon your decision.
And you have to include the 220 people in Rock River to stay within all 13 of those districts being at negative 5% deviation. Is that generally the thought? Representative Summers?
Mr. Chairman, no, right now we're within 5%. It's just a matter of being able to better retain communities of interest if we keep Rock River in where it currently is in House District 47.
Okay. Representative, oh, go ahead, Senator Scott.
Mr. Chairman, on that point, it's the districts are all within the plus or minus 5% deviation, with leaving Rock River in its Albany County, which it actually is part of.
Representative Air, then we'll go back to second times. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to reiterate some of the things that Representative Summers, Majority Floor Leader Summers mentioned. We are so close to the 5% deviation in nearly every district with this plan that it becomes almost impossible to avoid split precincts and all those problems that the county clerks encounter. Also, we have the largest geographic area or district in the United States, I think, and we have to make it even larger. The district stretches from Farson, like he said, from Lincoln County to Albany County. And we've talked about severe distances in other large districts, and this one is the worst of all. So I can't support this plan. Thanks.
And so I know Senator Scott, at our next in-person meeting, I mean, you've heard some of the feedback, and I'm sure you'll take that into account, work with LSO on, I mean, if there's anything you want to redraw. I know this map is semi-recent in the last 3 days. And so maybe in a
Yeah, that would, so we'll defer a decision on it till the next meeting.
Okay. Speaking committee, Senator Boner, go ahead.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know if it's appropriate time or not. Perhaps it is. I did submit a, I guess it's called an I-80 compromise plan that sort of deals with some of the challenges we've heard from the southwest parts of the state associated with keeping a whole House district. And when we get to Laramie County and looking at some of the plans, it looks like they're dealing with a similar issue when they have too many House districts. It makes it a challenge to split up your county in a way when you're already right at the minimums. So don't know if this is the appropriate time to discuss that concept or not at your discretion, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, no, I'll certainly give you a couple of minutes to discuss it. I mean, a map might help, but no, sir, sure. Go ahead, Senator Bunner.
Mr. Chairman.
Sure, Senator Scott.
At some point, can we take a quick break?
I was hoping to get done in the next 5 minutes, but I guess we can, committee here in person, let's take a 10-minute break. And I don't want to delay your evenings too much, but sure, we've been going for 3 hours. So yeah, let's take a 10-minute break. We'll come back at 5:25 and that'll give Senator Boner some time to formulate a good speech and maybe we'll be done by 6. All right, committee, if we start coming back to order. Okay, we left it at Senator Boner. Senator, if you're there, I'm certainly happy to give you the floor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thought this would be a good time to bring up this concept, and it is just as a concept. Basically, it'd be a request for more information in the form of a third plan that would be submitted to the committee at its next meeting. And so the genesis of this third option has to deal with the differences, I think, between the Scott and the Zwanzer plan as it relates to the movement of that entire House district from the southwest portion of the state into Laramie County. I believe my colleague from Albany County pointed out the obvious challenges from their perspective when it comes to the Senate, and that all of a sudden you have a county that is entitled, I hate using that word, but whose population justifies 2 full senators, that only having really 1 Senate seat within its border, and then splitting basically 2 Senate seats with its neighboring counties. And you run into all those issues that we've heard in the southwest part of the state, the challenges that they've had with having too many House districts coming in right at the bare minimums, and looking at the 11 House seat Laramie County plans. It looks like we have a lot of similar issues. I think the one that has Chairman Swanser's name on it, 5 of the 11 House seats are below that 5% deviation. So this is a proposal specifically to go ahead and have these the legislators and the clerks from the affected areas make a third map. It's middle of the road between the 2 extremes. The idea being that's going to give everybody the maximum flexibility to make the map set make sense for their communities. And so we have that up right now. I won't go over all the details, but Laramie County has 10 House districts. Basically, there's a 2-to-1 split between Laramie and Albany County. That's just a nominal beginning point, recognizing that if you do it half and half, that puts the remaining 3 seats in Albany County right at about 9,200, right there, skimming at the bottom end of the range. And then you have an even House split or House district split between Carbon and Albany County. You have a full House district slightly above average in Carbon County. And then there's sort of a hard split between Carbon and Sweetwater County, which of course reduced the size of House District 47 that we've all heard about. Then you just leave it up to Region 10 plus Sweetwater County. That's 12 House districts between those, I believe, 5 counties, an average size of slightly below average, but not much. So it's a concept that basically be a request from the committee to those county clerks and legislators in the region to come back with the third option that alleviates some of the challenges on either end of the extreme end of the spectrum, which we've contemplated with the Scott plan and the Zwanzer plan. And it's clear to me at this point, we do need a third option that's a little bit more middle of the road. This would also help alleviate some of the challenges, I think, on the Senate side with trying to pair nest House seats across county lines, especially in a way that makes it really awkward for Albany County. And you probably say the same thing for Carbon County and Laramie County as well. So just like to offer this as an item of discussion, and Mr. Chairman, depending on what you want to do, this could simply be a request for a third map for these counties, or we can make an official motion, whatever you want to do, Mr. Chairman. But I certainly take any questions at this time.
Well, I was all for a third map for the northeast part of the state, but other comments on Senator Boner's proposal, Representative Blackburn?
Thank
Go
you,
ahead.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Boner, so are we contemplating cutting Albany County in half?
Senator Boner?
Not in this plan, no, that they would. No, I think the current Zwanzer plan is what cuts them in half, at least from the Senate side. So we're trying to alleviate some of that. And like I said, this gives, from the House district side, it gives Albany 3 full House districts. It initially contemplates an even split between Carbon and Albany County for the 4th, and then 1/3 of a House district shared with Laramie County. But like I said, those are just starting points, places to start the discussion.
Well, just because we referenced my plan, I think it's still the majority of the House members in Laramie County's prerogative to join with Goshen County for our Senate nesting, not with Albany County. And we've talked to Albany County and they agree with that approach. So in our 11-seat plan, I don't think Laramie County and Albany County have any agreement on nesting. I think they're both promoting our nesting for the Goshen and Laramie. Representative Blackburn, and I'll go to Senator Rothfuss.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm very, very sure after chatting with some representatives in Albany County that they're against that nesting.
Senator Rothfuss?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe you summed it up correctly that the plan, as I understand it, the preference for Laramie County would be to be nesting with Goshen County and having 11 House districts coming out of Laramie County and leaving Region 2, Albany County, untouched. And I don't really know who the compromise is compromising with, but it seems very disadvantageous to the interests of Albany County. And on behalf of the Senate delegation and the House delegation, we'd be very concerned with this proposal. Thank you.
Further comments from anyone in the committee? Seeing
Mr.
none.
Chairman, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Scott, go ahead.
Yes, and trying to evaluate this one, I need to understand what your plan does in terms of how it's going to handle you got a half a Senate district in Laramie County, 5.5 Senate districts. What are you going to do? Because I'm unclear as to what you're going to do, and I thought maybe this was an attempt to alleviate that.
Well, Senator Scott, I would agree that this is an attempt to alleviate the Senate nesting concern. I don't believe it has the support of Laramie County or Albany County for us to work for that goal. And then I'll just remind the committee, in my plan, it really is a Goshen and Laramie County. It was Senator Boner who made the motion to, give Laramie County 11 seats. I think with the hope that we would go with Albany County, but that continues not to be supported by at least 8 of the 10 delegation in the House of Laramie County. And I don't want to speak to the senators, but I do think it's an attempt to alleviate the problem. I'll give Senator Boner that.
Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
My question is, how does your plan, I don't understand how your plan works for the Senate, because if you nest with Goshen County, then that whole northeastern region winds up with a half a senator. How do you ever get to, so it's 30 whole senators?
And
I don't understand the Senate implications of the Zwanitzer House plan.
And I agree with Senator Scott. I suppose I will have some maps developed on what when I look at it, 4 alternatives might be to having what we would call 21 reps on the east coast of the state. And so what those Senate nestings, I will commit to you and the committee to bring at least, I think, 4 options, because the 4 options are going to Sheridan, Johnson, Natrona, or Albany. That's somewhere there's going to be a give, and then we can talk as a committee where we think that might be. But certainly I do think Senator Boner is trying to alleviate a problem with the Senate nestings, which will be a topic of concern. I hoped that we had some different results today on the northeast part of the state on how we were drawing that, which would have, I think, allowed some more flexibility in that nesting. But I'll guess Laramie County will move forward with the current plan on what nestings might look like with where we are at this point, I think is a fair way to say it. So, but I agree, there's an ongoing issue on what the nestings will look like. Representative Clausen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm on and in favor of this proposal. So I don't think it does any harm to draw a plan that looks at this. When you look at the population shift throughout the I-80 corridor, I mean, there's a lost population on the west side and a gain of population on the east side, and the half a house seat solution seems very reasonable, and I think it pushes towards our mission of balancing those two interests.
Further comments from anyone in the committee? Or, Representative Ayer, Representative Ayer, and then I'll go to Senator Case. Go ahead, Representative Ayer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to add my concurrence with Representative Clausen's comments. When you look at the areas of the state that have gained population, it's in Laramie County. If you look at the areas of the state that have lost population, it's Carbon, Sweetwater, and Sublette County. And this is a conceptual framework, at least, for shifting those borders such that we compensate for that change in population. So I think it's a good concept if we can make it work. Thank you.
Senator Case.
Mr. Chairman, I was just going to suggest that it might be the wind turbines that are sucking the people out of these counties. We should seriously think about that.
And so I guess what I would say on, at least from my own perspective, there's not a huge amount of agreement or willingness probably from the Laramie County or Albany County delegations to put in that type of effort, what we would think is disadvantageous to us. But, certainly if any other members of the committee wanted to work on, fleshing out a plan on how that might look, certainly that's anyone's prerogative on the committee, but I don't believe, and Senator Nethercott or Representative Blackburn or anyone else from Albany or Laramie on the call can refute, but I just don't think it's palatable for us to take that on against our will. Senator Nethercott.
Yeah, just because I've been quiet on this front and give you a little bit of support, but no, the Laramie County delegation does not support going into Albany County, and the Albany County delegation does not support joining with Laramie County. It's not that we don't like each other. It's just that we have sufficient numbers for where we are within our own counties and being consistent with what the rest of the state wants. With that wisdom of staying within the county, we're there. And when we do look at those community of interest, right, and geographic limitations, those are very different between Albany and Laramie counties. I know that there is this kind of presupposition that Laramie County or Cheyenne is more modern than it in reality actually is. Much of Laramie County is rural, right? And the communities of Albin and Pine Bluffs, and Hillsdale and Burns actually have significantly more in common with the towns of Yoder and Torrington and Lingle, all, farming communities on the southeastern side of the state. And so for that, it just makes a lot more sense to have those community of interest there where, we are 45 miles over a mountain pass, right? In a university dominated community that doesn't have anything to do with the capital city. So, for those reasons, I just don't think there's any interest in going there. And I get that geographically the counties are next to each other, but that community of interest just doesn't apply in this case.
Representative Yin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, we have these numbers on a piece of paper and numbers work out, but I want someone to imagine what a Carbon Albany County half and half district would look like. The population center in Albany County is Laramie. You would not be able to get 4,800 out of Albany County without cutting into Laramie in some way. So you would have Laramie be in the same district as possibly Baggs or Encampment, or if you wanted to take a bigger town, you could do Hannah or Rollins. But I want someone to honestly say, how do you represent a half and half Rollins Laramie district? Who is that representative and what would they look like? I don't think these are a community of interest when you try to cut it this way. And I think we just had these very long discussions about the Northeast to try to make this be a district that says it follows community of interest. I don't think that can be true. But if someone wants to say how they can make a Rollins Laramie district, I'll see what that map looks like.
Question. Representative Summers, you have anything to add?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. And you know, those representatives there know whether they like it or not. They probably don't. But on the same token, we're trying to solve Carbon County's shortage of population by dragging it out of Teton County, let's be honest. And so there are consequences to that as well. So I want you all to think about that. And if I appreciate the fact that Senator Boner brought the idea. I mean, yes, it's complicated. It's complicated the other way as well. And that's why I'm one more pitch, you know, if you're going to go to 14, we at least need Rock River.
Senator Boner.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, yeah, obviously, you know, you have challenges with Carbon County. Yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about a ridiculous House district, let's look at the current House District 47. It stretches from Sweetwater to Rock River. So, yeah, I think that, like I said, this is just a conceptual idea that we would have the clerks in the affected area go and start working on this as and I don't see the challenge associated with having an additional option on the table. That's all it says. And so with that, Mr. Chairman, I will make that motion officially to direct the LSO to work at least with the county clerks and willing legislators in the affected counties, that being Laramie, Albany, Carbon, Sweetwater, and the counties that comprise Region 10 of the Scott Plan, to come up with a map that comports with these parameters, realizing that there's going to be some negotiation on one, on the exact numbers, but these are the ideals to shoot for. I'll go ahead and make that motion. It's not to adopt anything, it's simply to present this as a third plan.
Second.
Seconded by Representative Clausen.
Question.
Seeing no further discussion and question being called, all in favor of that motion who are on the committee, please raise your hand.
Scott, aye.
That's 5 ayes. All opposed to that motion, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Did I lose a person over lunch? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, that motion fails. All right, committee. Anything else anyone wants to talk about before our next meeting besides figuring out when our next meeting is going to be? Great. So with that, as you've heard, we're likely looking at 2 meetings, if not 3. And the time is getting short. And so yours truly is actually out of town next week. But I guess I would like to ask what it looks like between Christmas and New Year's for the majority of the committee, assuming the weather holds up, for an in-person meeting. And that's really the key. I think we all need to be in the room if we can and sort this out. So,
Mr. Chairman,
Representative Duncan.
I'm throwing out December 20, what did I give you? December 28th?
28th, is that a Tuesday? 26, 27. 28th of a Tuesday, what does that look like for everyone if you check your calendars? For an in-person meeting? I guess it doesn't have to be in Cheyenne, but, okay. Go ahead, Senator.
Mr. Chairman, I actually think an in-person meeting would be good. We would try to get most people there in person.
No Zoom. No Zoom unless you're sick or dying.
Does that not work for anyone on the committee to have the 28th of December? It's a Tuesday at a meeting here in Cheyenne. Please speak now or I'm going to schedule it. I know we are missing 2 of our members. I will certainly get in touch with them and hope they can make it. All right. I don't know if we want to set another subsequent meeting after that, or we'll see how the 28th goes and just keep the first couple weeks of January flexible, or at least have a couple dates in mind for a subsequent meeting. I assume we can get this done in one day. Committee, that's agreeable. 1-day meeting on the 28th. Really hammer this out. I'm looking for any feedback from anyone. Well, I don't, for the 29th in case. How about let's say the 28th, and if anybody is not available the 29th, in case we go all day, let me know. But Tuesday, the 28th here in Cheyenne, and we'll just start at, I don't know, Representative McGuire, Senator Boner, what time is agreeable depending maybe on whether, do you want to start later to leave that morning, or kind of depends on the weather that day?
Well, it doesn't matter to me, Mr. Chairman. I'll make whatever work.
Okay. Well, let's just say 8:30 starting time on the 28th. Mr. Swank.
When you're done with the meetings, I ask for clarification. Are you done with your meeting assessment?
You have more to add to today's meeting?
I just want to know what the next steps are for me. and
Oh, yeah,
also-
we're getting there. So
Okay, sorry.
by the next meeting on the 28th, I think we have a statewide plan that's evolving but is in place currently. And so LSO will be updating the website. I know there've been some concerns that the 11 people in Laramie County has not been reflected. And I've had some residents, not only from my county, but from northern counties concerned that we did not take that into account. So we will integrate the current plan for the Northeast in with the statewide plan, fixing the Fremont County Island issue, keeping the basin deviation at previously presented. Other directives to LSO. Senator Case.
Mr. Chairman, this is kind of off the beaten track, but bear with me. I've had several emails about folks complaining about South Cheyenne and that there might potentially be a majority minority district somewhere in South Cheyenne if configured. I don't know if that is true, but could we get a report on that possibility? Not asking for any districts to be drawn, just saying, is there a population region of, say, 9,400 people that could potentially be a majority Latino? And we ought to think about that if there is. I don't think so, but I think we owe it to at least ask the question.
And in Senator Case, I do believe those of us in Laramie County have been in many talks with that group.
Yeah.
And they did modify at least the two submissions I put forward on the 11-person plan. That group felt satisfied that there was not enough numbers for a minority majority district, but there is maybe a 30% of the greater two districts down there, and we've tried to solidify a vast majority of that into one district, but it didn't quite meet the threshold. But certainly we can ask for the numbers.
Yeah, let's just have the numbers if
and
that's okay.
I will invite them to come in, the kind of the chair people of that 50-person group who continues that advocacy.
Okay, that'd be great. I mean, it's just a piece of information for us.
And Mr. Swank.
Mr. Chairman, the only question I have is the original statewide plan was contemplated on your original 11 district plan that went into Goshen. With the amendment to Region 6 and 7, which 11 district plan should be placed into there? We have one from Henderson and we also have one from you.
Well, I'd certainly prefer mine, but we'll see if Representative Blackman or Senator Nethercott have, I think they're close and they're almost interchangeable for the time being. Let's put mine in and we'll have Representative Henderson will be here in person. He was not available to be here today, but certainly so the committee knows there needs to be some fine tuning of both of those 11-person plans if they hold. And then, as I said earlier, I'll work with LSO on what that nesting situation may look like if we get to keep our 11. All right, further directives to LSO. Senator Boner, go ahead.
Never mind, Mr. Chairman.
Further things to come before the committee that anybody wants to publicly ask LSO, you're all certainly welcome to work with Mr. Swank, Mr. Anderson from LSO on and your clerk on a plan or revisions. We'll send out another email to all the legislators and clerks with the current updates and the current asks of fine tuning some of those boundary lines. And then hopefully at our next meeting, when we're all here, we'll get a solid plan hammered out to give to the clerks to fine tune. And I know some of them have already fine tuned. Mr. Swank, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Senator Scott.
Mr. Chairman, are we to assume that we'll see ahead of time a Senate plan that goes with your House plan? Because my concern right along with your House plan is it just isn't going to work with the Senate, and I want to see. I think we need to see what you're proposing because we've got to have a plan that works for both houses.
And Senator Scott, I will certainly try to make that happen. As I said, I'm taking my first vacation in a long time next week for just 1 week, since I'm not going to South Africa anymore for 3 weeks, like was previously scheduled. But I will try to get stuff to LSO and be somewhat remote to work with Mr. Swank on what some possible nesting plans look like now that I have the Northeastern region proposal in front of us. So I will do my best to give possible scenarios to the committee, none of
Yeah,
which
and
you might like.
Yeah, and I'm also having trouble understanding how your Goshen County plan meshes with what we adopted for that part of the state.
And so as of now, my Goshen County, Laramie County partnership plan is not on the table, right? From what I understand, Laramie County has 11 seats at the current time. Goshen and Platte are working with their neighbors to the north on fine tuning the map that we approved today. And so I'm doubtful they're going to want to be nesting with us, but we will certainly have that discussion. And I'm certain we'll get more emails, especially from Goshen County. Those are, yeah, Mr. Swink, go ahead.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, last question. Now that we have, my understanding, a full base plan with Region 6 and Region 7, would it be the committee's preference or I guess discretion for me to provide the GIS information directly to the clerks so that they can begin to look at all the lines, not just the digital maps on the website, but that sort of thing?
I think we're at that point. We have more than a rough draft plan in place to proceed with, and we'll certainly entertain amendments if they can puzzle piece into that map and listen to, I know some legislators that we heard from today want to come in person and pitch other plans, that as long as they can, take out 2 House districts or Senate district and interchange that or draw within, we'll invite any other legislator to present their ideas, and I think the committee will take some hard votes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, committee, anything else to come before you today? Seeing none, I certainly appreciate all of your time and your Zoom participation. I know some of you were excited about coming all the way to Cheyenne and driving all the way home tonight, but hopefully we saved you a little bit of a trip, and I'll look forward to seeing all of you in person after Christmas. And Merry Christmas if I hadn't said that yet. All right, we're adjourned.